Run it, sweetheart, run it.
Oh, okay. We're live. Good evening, and welcome to what could be the most transformative live stream you will ever join. It's about to go down. Imagine a life where your alarm clock is set for your passions, not your paycheck, where finances don't dictate your choices, and the term work-life balance isn't a luxury, it's just life. Tonight, we're not just talking about money. We're walking step by step through a formula that has the power to redefine your relationship with your job and achieving financial security. We're talking about a number and a strategy you won't find anywhere. Not even on YouTube. Matter of fact, you won't find this strategy even if you were to Google this phrase, because we flipped it and reversed it. So what are we talking about? It's a number that has the potential to unlock doors that you might not have even known existed. A number that usually sounds ridiculous to most people, but not you. No. This is gonna rock your world. We call it the freedom number, and we're not just gonna show you how to find yours, we're gonna show you exactly how to achieve it in record time so that you can retire early, even if you're starting from zero. And we'll show you how to build passive, tax-free income for life, because that is the goal. If you're new here, we're different. We blaze new trails. And I'm willing to bet that this will make you question everything you've been taught about financial freedom, because this is that kind of stream. Sometimes you have to be willing to think outside the box, or toss the box. Do you? Either you're gonna have a lot of questions, you're gonna watch this twice, you're gonna share this with somebody to see if they can understand it or if it's just you, or you're gonna get a little pissed off that you didn't get this information sooner. It'll be one of those. We don't follow traditional advice or strategies. We educate and use the mistakes of others to innovate, put strategies into action, follow it through, and then we bring it straight to you. If you've ever felt like there's a golden key to a life of abundance, a life where your time is truly your own, you're right. And it's called financial independence. What you'll learn tonight is not just an idea, it's not theory, it's practice. It's what we're currently doing and have been doing for years. It's not just what we believe, it's what we live. So get ready. By the end of this stream, the term financial freedom will not just be a concept, it'll be your action plan and your North Star to becoming financially future-proof, or as we like to call it, fully self-directed. So let's get started.
Get in here, everyone.
Yeah, hello and welcome. Tonight we're throwing down the reverse card on velocity banking, so get in here. We're going to show you how this same concept can be used to build wealth, significant wealth, and in fact we're going to go through an example that will not only move his retirement date up by decades, but will provide over 5 times the retirement income, and it's all tax-free.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, hard stop, right? Like if you've been following us for a while, then you know that we cover the bases and we ruffle a lot of feathers across the internet, and we're okay with that. We're more than okay, actually. And because what we're about to show you will have your jaw on the floor and your brain in a bit of a scramble. And if you're new here, welcome. We hope that you'll get value from this stream. And if you do, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. So go ahead.
No, you got it.
Well, what we talk about here is just, I was just going to tell them that for anybody who is new, what we're talking about is not usually common, but by the time that it becomes a trend, you won't have the time to like rewind and then go implement it. So anyway, if you're on your wealth building journey and you're looking to make confident and educated decisions, then you're in the right place.
So this is a pretty fun topic for me. And as I was going through it, what I realized was this is actually the reason why I wanted to add this to what it is we do. Like it was this specific example that kind of told me, you know what? I need to rethink what retirement looks like for us. And there's a better way of going about it. And you know what? We're not leveraging everything we could possibly leverage to be able to hit that WTF moment or hit our goal or hit that fire number or hit whatever the acronym you want to use. The bottom line is this example was the one that pushed me over the edge, and I think I'd forgotten how powerful this process was. And in the midst of kind of reliving this example, it kind of brought me back to I think a place where I went, are we still checking all the right boxes? Like, is there some opportunity even in our own process to do this even better? So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I like that we kind of, this has been an evolution of strategies that we've talked about. And what I do appreciate is that even if they're more complicated or harder to understand, not very popular, not a lot of people are talking about them. And a lot of the reason is because people don't understand them. That's really the only reason why people aren't talking about them. There are countless examples out there of whether it be a new medical discovery, whether it's a discovery in technology, some sort of innovative process that improved upon that what based on what other people were doing. Yet those who were in the positions or decision making seats to say whether or not this was valuable got to say no.
Right.
I've been like collecting stories like this just because this is not new for people for there to be solutions that are out there and for there to be improvements out there and the ways that we can do things, and for other people to not be talking about it or to not choose not to talk about it. And I think by the time they are talking about it, how many people could have been taking advantage of that and weren't able to because there were gatekeepers that said, no, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to edify this. We're not going to validate this idea, this strategy. That's unfortunate. But the good news is you don't have to wait for other people because you have the ability to tune in right here, right now, and get this information and educate yourself. There's a lot of people in our community who are becoming fully self-directed, and they are learning these strategies and utilizing these tools. And they find that when they go out there and they start asking questions, they're getting a lot of pushback. And that's okay. Ask more questions.
Right.
Keep asking
That's the key.
questions. And if you needed permission to ask questions, you got it. This is your permission. This is your sign. And the reason why I wanted to say this, and I wanted to say this up front, because when you hear this, there's going to be a lot of questions that come up for you. When you hear this, there's going to be maybe a pull to go and talk to somebody else about this strategy. And instead of just listening, I want you to ask questions. I want you to ask why. I want you to ask them to show you why and what it is that they talk about, or invite them to join in on our community. So that's what I wanted. That's kind of the disclaimer I would say is we are not we don't do things in the traditional way, and as a result, we're not going to have traditional results.
Which is a good thing. And I think for me, it's maintaining an open mind. Because to your point, if you can adjust, instead of saying there's no way, maybe the question is how. And when this occurred, then what happens versus it can't happen or it won't or there's no way. So I think you're absolutely right. The question that you ask is important, and learning how to ask better questions is something that I've specifically been focused on in my own little journey, and we kind of dig into some of that as well. So no, I think you're spot on, sweetheart.
All right. Well, are you ready to dive in?
I have nothing better to do.
Okay. All right. Let's get into it. Oh. Here we go.
All right. So reverse velocity banking. There's a lot to set up here before we kind of jump right into what reverse velocity banking even means. Because obviously we have to spell out what is velocity banking first. But before we even do that, I just want to highlight an example. And this is my buddy Abel. Fairly young guy, 25 years of age, makes about $50,000 a year. And the objective from Abel's perspective is just to have a successful career. But I think what he's learning is there's nothing fun about working every day. There's nothing fun about bringing home this income and not having all of it accessible to you. It almost feels like you're in this hamster wheel that's never ending, right? And so the thought process is, okay, he's heard a lot about this freedom number thing. What would be his freedom number? And on top of that, can he put himself in a position to where he can literally fire his job? Now, that doesn't mean he'll stop working. It just means, can he put himself in a position to where he can actually go do what he wants to do versus what he has to do? Can he stop trading his time for money and maybe focus on purpose? Put himself in a position to where he has enough income being generated so that he now has a choice. How many of us wish we had a choice? And as you're watching this, yes, this gentleman is 25 years of age. get it. But I want you to know that it was this example. I was 45 at the time when I learned of this example. I was 45, and what I realized was, even though I've had some great jobs throughout my life, I've worked for some great companies, Ford Motor Company, Target, Amazon. I've done some great things across my career. But what I realized was, even at the age of 45, there was a lot missing because what I had learned was, if I didn't do something different, I was going to end up working for the rest of my life. And this example gave me, I'll call it the permission to adjust how we were looking at our finances and possibly do something different. So the first question, though, is, what is a freedom number? Like, what does that even mean? And ultimately, it's the moral of the story around your freedom number is, it's the amount of money you need to sustain your lifestyle. So how quickly can you receive or achieve the amount of money necessary, whether it's the amount of money to replace your expenses or the amount of money to simply replace all of your income, whatever you decide that number is. And then the question is, how long does that take? What does that look like? And let me make sure. Yep. And I was going to pull it up in Google from here, but I decided not to. If you were to just simply type into the in your favorite search engine, how to calculate your freedom number, there's all sorts of stuff that comes up, but they all hinge around the same concept, and it's right here. It's your annual expenditures times the number 25. So your annual expenditures, whatever you decide that to be, times 25 equals your freedom number. And every single article that I reviewed, I'm not saying every article out there, but every single article that I reviewed, all highlighted the 4% rule. And over this last week, there's been a fair amount of discussion around the 4% rule, how it's mathematically accurate, but may not be necessary for you to be able to sustain retirement. But the bottom line is, every article that I watched, every article that I read, or video that I watched, every article that I read, every financial institution that offers a retirement calculator, all follow the same thought process. And it's the Trinity study. It's the study that was done to determine what's your safe withdrawal rate so you don't run out of money in retirement. And so when you're calculating the financial freedom number, it's all based off that 4% rule. So getting back to this gentleman, again, he's 25 years of age, and what he's decided to do is put away 10% of his income. So 25 years of age, making $50,000 a year, $50,000 a year. 10% of his income would be $5,000. So putting away $5,000 to go, whether it's a Roth IRA, company 401k, putting it away somewhere so that he could focus on building his freedom number. And then the remaining, that $45,000, that's what he needs. That's his annual expenditures. So even though I would say, there's probably some cash flow in there, the thought process is everything else. I want to be able to receive or achieve this $45,000 annually. And that is my freedom number. So this is his decision. This is not something that I suggested. It is simply what he wants to do. Take the remaining income, $45,000, and generate that freedom number around that. And when you multiply that times 25, you end up with about 1.1 million. So the question is, okay, if 45,000 times 25, how long would it take to achieve that 1.1 million as the freedom number, as the total nest egg available to him to be able to achieve, I'll call it his moment where he can potentially fire his job, that moment where he can achieve the income that he wants to be able to have the lifestyle that he needs. And again, we're talking about $45,000. How long would it take in traditional retirement vehicles for him to be able to achieve that 1.1 million is the question.
I want to know if anybody can put it in the chat, if
So
they can guess.
let me see here. Yeah. So there's a few ways we can go about it. I can tell you, or we can also calculate it ourselves using the calculator to my right. Either way. But the bottom line is, the goal is 1.1 million. And the question is, for a 25-year-old putting away $5,000 a year, $5,000 a year is 417, like 416 point something, $417 a month. So if you were putting away $417 a month, how long would it take Again, I don't, whether you use the Vanguard calculator, Fidelity, Morgan Stanley, it doesn't matter which calculator you use, they all say right around the same thing. And sweetheart, if you jump over to the other side, I'll show you.
Yep. Okay. Here we go.
So the question is, how long would it take, putting away $417 a month for a 25-year-old, how long would it take for him to achieve $417,000 in a traditional retirement vehicle? I'm not talking about a secure compound interest account. I'm not talking about premium finance strategy. I'm talking about in a traditional retirement vehicle. How long would it take for that $417 to turn into 1.1 million? So I just did it for 30 years. So from 25 to 35, what does that look like? Well, 25 to 35 is not quite there. 25 to 35 says he's got a nest egg of about 654,000, income of about 26. So he's still got some work to do. So let's see how far we end up having to go. So I'm going to quickly bypass the 65. Let's go to 67. 1.7 million. So I went too high. All right. So let's back this thing down. So from age 25 to age 62, age 25 to age 62. So that's, what is that, 37 years? It would take 37 years to accumulate 1.1 million in a nest egg. And that 1.1 million, based off the 4% rule, turns to or around the $45,000 a year that this gentleman was wanting to be able to create. So the odds of him retiring early, not so much. And this does not take into consideration that he's making more money, right? This does not take into consideration that throughout the years, his lifestyle may change. This is assuming starting from ground zero with $45,000 a year, what would it take for him to hit his freedom number? And again, we're talking, was that 32 or 37? What did I say? 37. It will take him 37 years to be able to achieve that number. And if you slide back over to the other side, sweetheart, the question then being asked is, okay, if it takes 37 years, so if it takes 37 years to accomplish this goal, is there anything else missing in this equation? Meaning, do you guys notice of this 1.1 million being the freedom number, is there anything missing? And if you've been on any of our lives, especially over these last few weeks, we've been harping on this a lot. And that is, just because your freedom number might look one way based off today's income, what none of these, I'll call it vehicles that we're using to assess what that income should be in the future, none of them are taking into consideration inflation. And so I want to just acknowledge the fact that this 1.25 million does not include inflation. So whatever 1.25 million looks like 37 years from now, can we just agree that it's not sufficient?
Yeah, and how to invest also brought up a good point. It also doesn't include the taxes.
That's right. That's right. Because in a traditional retirement, traditional retirement vehicle, we've been, I'll call it conditioned to do what? Defer our taxes. So what that's saying is in 37 years, Abel has created an open checkbook for the government to charge him whatever the tax rate is 37 years from now. So you are absolutely correct. And so he reached out. He had a few goals. One, find the fastest way to freedom. And clearly 37 years isn't that. So the question is, hey, Donnell, can you help me get there faster? And then also I talk a lot about structure. You just can't get or do anything with anyone. So what are those vehicles, and are those vehicles structured properly to be able to achieve that goal? And then the last one is avoid paying for expensive courses, coaching, and all of that other nonsense that comes along with this. Meaning there's enough content that we share on a regular basis that should allow most, if not all of us, to be able to educate ourselves. Now, there's some details that I don't go into. There are some roles that I don't play. There are some things that I don't highlight because I am not a tax attorney. I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion. But there's enough information out there to fully get educated on how to accomplish a lot of these things. And everything that I'm going to share with you today, I don't think there's anything new that I'm really sharing with you. I think it's really more about how it's structured, how it's used, how it's leveraged, and but the concepts that we're going to walk through are not new. And so when he reached out, I think he was looking for math, like mathematically, what does it look like for him to be able to hit his financial freedom number earlier? And what I simply stated was, how much are you looking to be able to have in a future date? Well, $45,000 at the moment. Okay, then the objective is to create enough leverage based off that $45,000 to use that leverage to pay all your expenses. Meaning, once you have $45,000 worth of leverage available to you, you now have enough space to be able to pay your expenses. Why? Leverage. You can use leverage dollars to be able to pay your expenses. There's nothing wrong with that. And then in addition, don't forget about inflation. We need to make sure that as we move down this journey, that I get it, 1.1 million is important, but it really should look a little bit different because we want to make sure we highlight or acknowledge or compensate for inflation. And I'm going to do so, but just to keep apples to apples and just to not, I'll call it, cause any additional confusion. What I wanted to do was do exactly what was asked. You want $45,000 a year? I'm going to get you $45,000 a year, and then we'll address that inflation piece. So here's how he understood it. Waiting 37 years to be able to hit your freedom number is a no bueno. And what I shared with him was, if we do this right, if you structure this right, if you take the time necessary to be able to allow money to compound, build enough for you to have enough leverage to be able to go, I'll call it, pay your bills and hit your freedom number, I'm thinking more like 10 to 20 years. And I'm harping on the 10 because I think that's the point. That's this line where things shift. So what do I mean? Well, before I kind of get into that, I wanted to highlight something. We originally started this with what? Abel is putting away 10% of his income. That's how most of us, any of us who are planning for the future, there's usually some percentage of our income that we focus on. I talk with a lot of people, a lot of couples who are doing 70, 20, 10. 70% goes toward expenses, 20% is going towards the debts. That's where the first position or second position HELOCs come into play. And then that remaining 10% is going towards bills. And then as the debts are eliminated, you're freeing up cash flow. And because you're freeing up cash flow, that's now more money that you can put towards putting away in some secure compound interest producing vehicle or traditional retirement account to be able to build wealth. We all do it the same way. I do it this way. We all do it the same way. It's somewhere around, hey, I'm going to take 90% of my income and do what I normally do. That remaining 10% I'm putting away. And as I free up more cash flow, then I make adjustments. And for those of you who have 2 income households, sometimes it's even, hey, I've got a spouse who hasn't been working, and now she is working, or now he is working. And so what we're going to do is use majority, if not all of the spouse's income to start a vehicle. So now it looks more like a 60-40 or a 50-50 maybe. But the bottom line is this is the traditional approach that we all use to be able to, I'll call it, put money in a vehicle that can help us. And in addition, if we were to look at that mathematically, meaning there is a mathematical equation that kind of speaks to this process. And it's the wealth equation. You've seen this equation before, or if you've been on this channel at all, you have seen this equation. A, we have to pay ourselves first. The 1, starting today. The plus, we have to reduce risk. So the plus is about security. The money has to be secure. And then you get that money compounding. That's the R. And then there's the X. You exponentially grow this money, and now you're able to increase reduce compound cycles, which would allow your money to double on its own as quickly as possible, producing the right amount of income or the most amount of income possible. And so there are very few vehicles that hit all of these buttons. But usually what we do is, before we pay ourselves first, we do a few things. Let's see here. So before we pay ourselves first, and using this example, Abel makes 50K. So we take that 50K and we pay our bills, right? Whatever they are. And then we pay our debts. And in doing velocity banking, what happens? There's a certain amount of cash flow left over. And then we take that cash flow and whatever's left over, is what we usually end up getting compounding in a vehicle that's going to make us money. And in this case, it's 10%, or specifically 5,000. So between all the bills, the debts, and the additional cash flow and trips and cars and whatever else is going on in Abel's life, what's left over is about $5,000. And that's the amount that ends up being used to go into this vehicle. And then we take this 5,000 and we get it compounding. That's traditionally how this works. And here's where I just want to introduce a different perspective. What if we just simply looked at this a little bit differently? Instead of paying all of our bills, from here, what if we were able to get all of our income into a compound interest producing vehicle? Take all of our income, put it right into the vehicle right off the bat. And then as money starts to grow in this vehicle, we then pay our bills from the leverage. Now, this concept, I'll call it, a little bit different. But the moral of the story is, what if? This is the question I want you to ask yourself. What if you could take all of your income, dump it into a secure compound interest producing vehicle, and then as that income starts to grow, as that income starts to compound, as that income starts to build, you then pay all of your bills from the leveraged money. And if you think this concept is, I'll call it, outside the box, it's really not. If you think this concept is something that you aren't able to do, it absolutely is. Matter of fact, there's a whole lot of people that currently do this today. So when you get time, go back to your favorite search engine and type into the search bar. And I didn't even finish it out before it even popped up. It was Buffett pays less taxes than. Put into your favorite search bar, Buffett pays, as in Warren Buffett, Buffett pays less taxes than. And there's this, I keep seeing it as a meme. There's this saying, I've seen social media people talk about it, but there's this saying that Warren Buffett says often, and that is, he pays less taxes than his secretary. And so then the question has to become, how? How is it possible for Warren Buffett to pay less taxes than his secretary? What is it that he knows that maybe we don't? What is it that he's doing that we're not? And the assumption is he must be doing something that, because he's a billionaire, he's allowed to do that maybe we aren't. And the truth is, none of that is the case. Everything that Warren Buffett does, we can do. It's just a question of what vehicles are we're using. And Warren Buffett's been doing this a long time. How long has he allowed his money to compound to put himself in a position to be able to do so? But the moral of the story is, if you were to Google Buffett pays less taxes, what you'll see here is, oh, I did not mean to do that.
Well,
Go ahead, sweetheart.
well, isn't it like above that or below that, where, because you're talking about what does he do different? What does he have that we don't to make different decisions? And that's why I wanted to include that other piece.
Yeah, I got it.
Because I wanted to ask, how much do you spend on breakfast? If you go out, how much do you spend on breakfast? And I think this is a perfect example that he doesn't have to have a budget for something like breakfast, right? He could be having the finest breakfast in any place in the world. And most people who think of wealthy people, they think, oh, you fly to Paris for breakfast, right? And that would be okay because you have the money to do so. What's different here is that even his wife, they're both on board. They're a team. She gets it. And what he's reporting here is that not only does he spend like under $5, like somewhere around $3 on breakfast, that she puts that money in the car holder in his cup for him when he leaves, because she knows that is his budget. That's what he wants to spend. So it's already there for him. They're a team. And this is some of these things that we are learning in how to change what we're doing to build wealth, change what we're doing to reduce debt. With velocity banking especially, one thing that people don't change are their lifestyle habits.
That's right.
And their mindset. Right. And so you've got maybe a husband or a wife who has been watching all these velocity banking videos, and then you've got someone in the home who's going, yeah, well, but, right? Yeah, well, but breakfast was $20, $30, where if we are really getting serious about this, then we have to see the writing on the wall. Can he afford? Is he already set for life? He is, but I think it's the how you do one thing is how you do everything,
I mean,
right?
but DoorDash is so convenient.
But you know what's not convenient? And here's the part. You know what's not convenient? What's not convenient is waking up one day realizing that you can't downsize enough to be
Right.
able to afford to live.
Right.
You
Or
can't.
you can't stop working, right? You have to continue working into that 75, 77, 78 range because there were some opportunities to make some different decisions early that maybe we chose not to.
Right, because right now this is a choice for him, but there are people who have to eat off of these types of budgets, and the cost of groceries just are not the same. So while it's endearing, it's sweet to think of Warren Buffett and his $3 breakfast, right? It's great for us to throw this analogy out, but for those who this is really their budget for dinner, for lunch, for the day, who knows, by the time you start running out of options, it is not like there's this insane amount of resources for you to help you. There are a lot of people out here who just don't qualify. You might be in that range. That's another rabbit hole. We'll save that for another stream. But the point, and I'll get to it, is that this is a choice. And right now, the majority of people have a choice to make choices like this, right? And if we start making choices while it's a choice, then we're gonna have better choices later.
Better
So
options
better
available
options,
later.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so to kind of wrap it all up, is Warren Buffett doing something that we as individuals can't do? Absolutely not. And in addition, as it relates to how he pays less taxes, it's really simple. And the next thing I'd ask you to, I thought it was here. Where's it at? Oh, I guess I don't have it. So bottom line is what came out of this is the reason why, because I thought I had the second page to this, but it looks like it didn't pull over. The reason why Warren Buffett pays less taxes than the secretary is very simple. The money that he spends is leveraged money. The money that he spends are meaning he'll pay more in capital gains, but is actually less in income tax, and so therefore he doesn't mind paying capital gains tax on an investment. And then the other piece is he only uses leveraged dollars. Meaning when he goes to the store and he goes to Home Depot and he buys whatever he buys, he is not using his cash out of his checking account. He's not using his cash from his income. What he uses is leveraged dollars. And what we know about leveraged dollars, if you've ever had a 401k, what we know about leveraged dollars is you are not taxed on the use of leveraged dollars. So the point of all this is this. If we can get to a point where our leveraged dollars or the ability to leverage dollars is enough or meets or exceeds what we need to maintain our lifestyle, we too can use these leveraged dollars to pay our bills, and therefore we have access to all of our income to do other things.
Yeah, it does. Didn't it say on there how much his secretary made? It was like 200 to 300,000, or 200 to 500,000 dollars is what like the average is for that position for someone like her.
Right.
Like, oh,
And,
poor thing, but the amount of taxes that you're paying at that wage.
and so again, this is just a paradigm shift. We are used to doing things a certain way.
Right.
Everyone follows this path. We are currently following this path. But the goal is to get here, meaning, yes, right now we're paying our bills from the income that comes in, and what's left over, we get compounding into a secure compound interest producing vehicle. But clearly, this number is lower than it should be because the objective would be to get 100% of our income into this vehicle and then pay bills from here. And so the moral of the story around that is how? How do you do this? How is it possible if I'm making $50,000 a year like Abel, how is it possible to get all $50,000 into a vehicle? I can't do that tomorrow. Like, how do I pay my bills? And
Right.
again, you've been watching this channel. We know we talk about cash value life insurance policies. Name the cash value life insurance policy that you can put $50,000 in and get $45,000 out tomorrow to be able to pay bills. It just, the math doesn't math. So how? Okay, this does take time. This is not something that you can do tomorrow, but what you can do is put yourself in a position such that when it's time, when it's ready, you can use those leverage dollars to pay those bills. So what we're talking about is reversing how we normally do things. And we talk a lot about,
I wanted to use my sound.
I know you do. We talk a lot about velocity banking. The thought process is here is the concept that I'm referencing isn't new. You've seen this before. The thought process, though, we're just going to use the concept of velocity banking a little bit differently to put ourselves in a position so that we can use our leverage dollars to pay bills. And again, my only ask of you is just to keep an open mind. It's the strategy that I want you to take hold of. It's the concept that I want you to take hold of. There are many ways to 10. There are many ways around how we do this. So I'm just going to walk you through one aspect of the how. There are an infinite number of ways we can go about it. But before we jump into reversing velocity banking, we have to first talk about velocity banking. So what is velocity banking? Velocity banking is the concept of all your income comes in, it goes into a checking account. Normally, we pay bills from this checking account, and what's left over is our cash flow. But the concept behind velocity banking is money comes into your checking account. We identify a debt tool. This debt tool is where all bills are going to be paid. And when all bills are paid from this debt tool, what's happening is you have the ability to use a dollar multiple times. What do I mean? If for this gentleman, if he's making $45,000, if he's got $45,000 in income coming in and he dumps all $45,000 onto this debt tool, clearly he still has to pay bills. So he's going to pay bills from this debt tool. But what ends up happening is his cash flow. What's left over? What's left over after bills are paid is what sits on this debt tool. And that cash flow, because it lives on the debt tool, what happens is the balance on the debt tool continues to drop. And as that balance continues to drop, what you guys traditionally hear from me is, then what? So just because we've paid down the debt on this debt tool, what are you going to do now with this newfound cash flow? Because the thought process is this: when you have that cash flow, if you don't put it to work, if you don't get your money compounding, the likelihood of you getting yourself back into the same position that caused the debt to become higher is likely to happen again. So the thought process is when this debt tool has a low balance on it, we then take that cash flow and put it to work. We take that cash flow and put it into a wealth building tool. So the concept looks like this. We're taking income or cash flow from the debt tool and moving it to the wealth tool to end up generating wealth over time. And we've talked about many different options. There's real estate. There's a secure compound interest account. There's premium finance strategies. There's there's a few different types that will allow you to place your money from or take the cash flow from the debt tool that you have as you've reduced that debt and move it into a wealth generating tool that is secure. That you're going to pay yourself first, get your money compounding securely, and then exponentially start to grow it. Well, if we're talking about reverse velocity banking, what does that look like? And it looks something like this. Again, income comes in, and when that income comes in, it still comes into the checking account. But what do we do with it? We take all of our income and move it to a wealth generating tool. What ends up happening is cash value starts to grow on this tool. And as cash value starts to grow in this tool, we take that cash value and we use it as a line of credit to do what? Pay our bills. So what's happening is you're now using leveraged money to pay your bills. And in this case, if it's 45K, if 45K is going into this debt tool, how much of the 45,000 that we put in is actually being used to pay for or to use to pay these bills? How about none of it? Meaning When I put 45,000 into the debt tool, I'm sorry, into the wealth tool, when I put 45,000 into a properly designed cash value life insurance product and it's building cash value, even when I leverage money from that cash value, the money that I originally put in is still working for me. The dollar amount inside of this wealth tool does not change, but I'm able to use that leveraged money to do what? Then pay bills. And then what ends up happening is over time, I'm able to generate passive income as a result. So again, the difference between velocity banking and what we're talking about here is simply this. We're taking our income and moving it to a wealth tool, and then turning right around and moving that money from the wealth tool, meaning leveraging that money inside of that wealth tool to then pay our debts as though it's a debt tool. So again, all we're doing is following the same process, but instead of the income going into a debt tool first, we pay all of our bills from there. The thought process is we shift all of our income as we can and move it into some wealth generating tool and leverage it. And then we use those leverage dollars to then pay bills. And again, I left a lot out.
Yeah. And we have to be able to simplify it for just rolling it out for the first time, and then we can go and get more granular. But here's why this made sense to me, that it was reverse velocity banking. Because in velocity banking, you're leveraging your cash flow to help reduce debt. That's not going to go in a savings account. It doesn't make sense, right? Because it's not doing anything for you sitting in a savings account, where it will be doing something for you if it's sitting on your debt tool. That's the whole point, sitting on the debt tool, right?
Right.
Everybody
Reducing
who's
the amount of interest that you're accruing over time,
Right.
sitting on the debt tool. Absolutely.
Right. And so we use these icons when we're explaining velocity banking. And so I wanted to try to mirror the same icons and where they would be in the strategy. So that's what I hope that everyone can see. I hope it's obvious, but I just wanted to say it in case it wasn't. Point is that the cash flow becomes cash value, right?
That's right.
So
That's right.
so your income is sitting on your wealth tool in the same way that your cash flow sits on your debt tool. Because if it's sitting in a savings account, if it's just going out to bills, it goes to bills and then it dies. It does not, you can't use it multiple times, it's done, right? But we talk about how to use the same dollar multiple times, especially in a velocity banking journey, and how these tools can be leveraged in different ways to actually accelerate your results, right? This is the same thing. So that's why, to me, if you understand the velocity banking concept, then you're going to get why this is so powerful, and why you're going to ask yourself, why weren't we taught how to do these things? And why were we not taught how to leverage our dollars? But I'm now on the same note. This is why people are building wealth and they aren't paying taxes on it, because they just have access to information like this. So that's all I want to say. Cash value, cash flow. I want you to just, for a moment, think of where your leverage is in velocity banking, and then you'll be able to see it inside of this strategy too.
Yep. And you guys know, when you meet with me, my first question is, and usually it's not my first question. Usually there's some cordial conversation there. But the bottom line is, my focus is to jump right in, and I want to really truly understand, what is your goal? And this 25-year-old gentleman, his goal was to retire early. And again, following the traditional approach, which we all have been conditioned to do. Abel has done nothing wrong here. He got a great paying job, and he sat in that cafeteria just like everyone else and watched that same movie about how it's now time to invest in yourself and contribute to your 401k. Abel has done nothing wrong. But what he learned is, if he continues down this path, it will take him 37 years before he hits his freedom number. And again, I get it. He'll make more money over time. Things will continue to grow, and I will address that, I promise. But looking at it just from an apples to apples perspective, if he just continued to put away the same dollar amount year after year after year, it would take far more than it needs to be. And the words retire early are not even an option. And then obviously the other part is, he wants to do all of the things that we all want to do. Buy a home, travel, do all of the other basic things that we all want to do as it relates to having enough cash flow or income available to us to be able to do so. And my objective is to make sure we don't limit him in being able to do any of those things while also building a vehicle that will generate income for him. So, what's his responsibility in this? What's your response? If this is you, what's your responsibility in this process? Your responsibility in this process is commitment, because this is not Bitcoin. This is not something that will be achieved by tomorrow. It takes time. It takes commitment, and it takes focus. And so that is his response. That's what he's responsible for. So let's kind of jump into what this would look like. So he makes $50,000 a year. I'm using the exact same, I'll call it 90-10 rule that he's using. So I didn't change that, because clearly 45,000 is what he's currently living off and is what he's comfortable spending. So I didn't want to adjust or change. He doesn't have to now switch to ramen or whatever it was he used to do. He has to switch. We're going to keep the same structure, 90-10. 90% of $50,000 is 45 grand. He's going to take those 45 grand, take that 45 grand, pay his expenses, and he'll still have cash flow. Whatever his normal process is, it has not changed. We're going to take that 5,000 though, and instead of dumping it into, I'll call it an investment account, like an IRA, 401k, 403b, TSP, government 457 plan, we're going to take that $5,000 and put it in a secure compound interest account. And let's just take a look at what a 25-year-old putting away $417 a month over the next 10 years would accomplish. So we're going to look at from year 1 to year 10 inside of a secure compound interest account. And again, everything else is the same. All he did was take that $5,000 and put it away. Sweetheart, would you mind jumping over to the calculator?
Yeah. Did you call him John?
What did I? I thought it said sweetheart.
No, that's not what I meant. Okay, hold on one second.
All right.
I'm in the chat telling him, yes, he was John in another video. He's now Abel.
So I did say that. Okay.
No, I renamed him so I could reuse the same character.
Yo, and it's a fire hose of information, so I apologize.
And we've got a ton of questions piling up too.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay.
So again, the first step, keeping the same structure. We're going to take the 10%, $5,000 a year. 5,000 divided by 12 is about 416 and some change. So we're going to take that 417, get it into a secure compound interest account. So when we do that we're going to do it for the next 10 years. Why did I choose 10 years? We'll get into that. Because the objective is to build up enough cash value in this vehicle so that he can then leverage that cash value to pay bills. So in year 1, he's paying bills like he normally does using the 45,000. Year 2, paying bills like he normally does using the 45,000. All the way to year 10, nothing is changing in his process. All we're doing is taking that $5,000 that he was already committing to his company's 401k, and we're taking that $5,000 and putting it into a different vehicle. So when we do that, after 10 years, what has happened? And again, just 10 years is not a very long time. He has about $7,600 in income available. That means or does nothing for him. But when you look at the rest of his account, he's put in about $50,000. He's leveraged about $110,000. He's making on average 7% on his dollar amount that he's put in. He's making on average 3% of this leverage dollar amount. The growth on this dollar amount and the growth on this dollar amount is giving him cash value of $73,308. So at this moment, can I make this a little bit bigger? I can. So at this moment, he has $73,308 at the end of year 10. Can we agree that $73,308 is more than 45 grand? And if any of you have ever had a cash value life insurance policy, whole life, variable life, universal life, doesn't matter. If you have cash value in your cash value life insurance policy, you are able to leverage it regardless. Well, I won't say regardless of the dollar amount. You are able to leverage it up to a certain extent, meaning you can't take everything in it because the life insurance company won't allow you to. But there's a certain portion of that cash value that you are able to leverage and you can use to do whatever you want. Now, there is a cost to leveraging this money. There is a cost to, and when I say leverage, I'm just strictly saying borrow. It's not scientific. When you're leveraging cash value inside of a cash value life insurance policy, you are borrowing some portion of this cash value and you're able to use it for whatever you want. And when you borrow this cash value, there are no tax implications on this dollar amount. So again, reset the stage. It's year 10. He's been putting away $50,000 or $45,000. I'm sorry. He's been putting away $5,000 a year inside of a secure compound interest account. He's been using his remaining income, 45 grand, to pay bills and live off. And yeah, he's probably got a few promotions. He's probably gotten some cost of living increases. Again, just keeping apples to apples. He's been paying bills with the 45 grand, put away $5,000 a year. In 10 years, he has 73,000 in cash value. So if we slide back over to the calculator, sweetheart. I'm sorry, to the vibe board, sweetheart.
Yep. Okay. You are there.
Now we want to look at year 10. We are now sitting at year 10. He's still making the same 50,000. 5,000 of that. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. 5,000 of that is still going into his secure compound interest account. Here's that 73,000 in cash value. What can he do with that 73,000 in cash value? He can absolutely take 45,000, leverage 45,000 from this 73,000 and pay bills. And when he leverages this 45,000 and pays these expenses, he has zero expenses for that year. And again, I'm using it as though we're talking light, gas, car note, rent, and anything that he's using for entertainment. I'm just saying the whole 45,000, leveraging the whole 45 from this cash value and paying all his expenses. But if you remember, he made 50,000 that year. He took 5 of it and dumped it into his secure compound interest account. But let's look at the performance, or let's measure what the costs were. Because remember, there is a cost to doing this exercise. And what is that cost? Let's see here. I'll go there. So if you remember, he's got $50,000 that he makes. That $50,000 that's sitting in the secure compound interest account, that $50,000 that's sitting in his cash value is making money for him. On average, it's around 7%. So $50,000 times 7% is about $3,500. Well, the $45,000 that he leveraged, the $45,000 that he borrowed, there's a cost to that. That cost is 4%. So if we were to multiply 4%, as in the cost to borrow that 4% times $45,000, we would get $1,800. So if he made $3,500 and it cost $1,800 to leverage the $45,000 to use to go pay all of his expenses, the net interest earned inside of his policy $1,700, meaning in that year, his policy didn't get smaller. He didn't lose cash value. There was a net cash value increase of $1,700 in his policy. Now, all expenses have been paid. Now that all expenses have been paid, what do we do with this remaining $45,000? Well, I go back to that wealth equation. Pay yourself first. The idea is to take all of your income and pay yourself first. So the idea is take all 45,000 that's left over because you don't need it. All your expenses are paid. You said you only needed 45,000. So you got 45,000 in liquid cash sitting in your hand, ready to go to work, ready to go recruit more employees. So the ideal situation would be to take this 45,000 and dump it into this policy. That would be the ideal situation. To not cause confusion, I'm going to do something that most of my infinite bankers do. Instead of, because which in a secure compound interest account, you're able to actually keep the same policy, but increase the contribution amounts inside that policy and just requalify. But instead of doing that, I'm going to open a brand new secure compound interest account just so that we can keep these things separate so you can see them. So again, at year 10, we've taken 5,000, dumped it into our normal vehicle. We've paid all of our bills from the leveraged dollar amount, which means our bills made us money. The bills we paid, the 45,000 we paid, made us, what is that, 3%? And then that remaining 45,000, we're going to put it to work. And notice there's a split here. I'm saying that 45,000 is being split between a new MPI plan, a new premium finance strategy of 35,000, and then I've got 10,000 left over. I'm saying I cannot get all 45,000 into this next policy. Why is that? Why can't I get all 45,000 in? Well, again, as I've mentioned before, structure matters. Who creates these matter. Just because you have $45,000 available does not mean you can use all 45,000 to start another policy. There are rules to this. So let's talk about some of those rules. So at age 35, which is where Abel is, Abel, not John. At age 35, where Abel is, he's got this 50,000 in income. The ideal situation would be to put all 50,000 into a new secure compound interest producing vehicle. Well, 5,000 of it is already accounted for. 5,000 is going into the old policy, or the first policy rather. Well, the remaining, the 45,000, I would love to get all of it in as new premium for the new policy, but I can't. Why is that? There is this thing called the max contribution, and there's this thing called max insurability. And again, the person building this should know this. Who you get products like this from matters because it's all about the structure. So if we look at this 35-year-old's maximum contribution that he can put into a secure compound interest account, here's what we know. That maximum is somewhere around 40% of his income plus 50% of his savings. So without accounting for any more dollars, I'm going to assume that he's been diligent enough over these last 10 years and he hasn't been saving anything extra. He's been putting his 5,000 into the secure compound interest account, and that 45 has just been spent on whatever it's being spent on. So I'm going to say he has zero savings. So therefore, when he has this extra 45,000, he wants to put this extra 45,000. Remember, 5,000 of this went to the original policy. So he's got 45,000 that he wants to put to work. If his max contribution is 40% of his income and his income is $50,000, then that would mean 40% of $50,000. So 50K times 40% is equal to 20,000. So from a contribution perspective, he can contribute 20K into a new policy, but it's 40% of your income plus 50% of your savings. I'm going to assume there's zero savings. Well, if I've got 45,000 available and I use 20,000 of that, if I've got 50,000 available and I'm using 20,000 of that to dump into a policy like this, the remaining 30,000 can be considered savings, right? Even though I'm using 5 of it into my other policy, I've got 30,000 technically of savings. So the max that I can put into a product like this is 50% of what I have saved. So again, just to recap, if I take $20,000 and I'm using that to contribute, I have 30,000 left over. And if that 30,000 is what I have liquid available to me, I'm going to call that savings. So the max that I can put into a vehicle like this would be 50% of my savings, 50%. So the remaining $30,000 times 50%, 15K. So what I'm saying is I can contribute into a new vehicle. I can contribute into a new secure compound interest account a total of 35,000. Now, if you divide 35,000 by 12, that ends up being about 2,900, 2,917. And sweetheart, if you slide over to the calculator, I want to take a look at what 29,000 or 35,000 inside of a secure compound interest account would look like starting at age 35. So I'm going to jump ahead. So again, let me make this bigger so you can see it. So 35 years of age, he's now 35 years of age, right? 35 years of age, and he's
Yep.
now putting away 2917. So the next stage, we handled the first 10 years, first 25 to 35, we've been borrowing money from our policy. Well, now we've hit this 35-year mark. This 35-year mark, we're going to do something different. At this 35-year mark, we're going to now open a second policy, and we're going to use that $35,000 as contributions for this second policy, and I'm going to grow it for the next 10 years. So 35 to 45, if you would multiply this by 12, this is $35,000 or somewhere around that. So the bottom line is these are the contributions. So I'm not going to get into the details yet. I just wanted to kind of highlight what that would look like. So now slide back over to the vibe board. Let's break down what year 20 would actually look like. And then I'll show you on the vibe board what year 20 would actually look like. So from year 10 to year 20, he would have accumulated 280,000 inside of his original policy. How is that? Because of the 50,000, he's taking 5,000 every year and dumping it into this policy. So for years 10, 11, 12, all the way to year 20, that $5,000 has been growing. Or I'm sorry, this $5,000 has been contributed to the original policy. Well, what else was happening during that 10-year period? From year 10 to year 20, what else was happening? Well, he was still borrowing. I'm sorry. This is at year 20. So at year 20, so year 10 to year 20. So from year 10 to year 20, he's been borrowing inside of his policy. And he would have borrowed 45,000 every year for 10 years. So 45,000 times 10 is about 450,000. And I already showed you, if I'm borrowing 45,000 and I'm making 7% on the money that I've contributed, and the cost of me borrowing the 45,000, there's a 4% cost. That net difference is right around, was it 13? What did I say? 13, I think it's $1,300 a month. And so if we were to take that $1,300 and also spread that over that 10-year period, and I am making some assumptions here. I will dig into those assumptions, I promise. But that borrowed 450 gave me a net interest increase of about $170,000. So from year 10 to year 20, I accumulated a cash value of about 280,000. When I show you in the calculator, there's income available of about 31,000, all off the 5,000 that I was putting away from year 1 to year 20. But then also I had a second policy. I had a second policy that started at year 10. That second policy, what I'm contributing into that second policy, which is what I just showed you, $35,000 a year into the second policy. So as I contribute $35,000 a year into that second policy, can we agree that if I put $35,000 in year 1, there's a portion of that $35,000 that's available to me in cash value that I can leverage? Put in another 35 in year 2, there's more leverage that I can use. Put in another 35,000 in year 3, the relock feature kicks in. That means there's even more leverage. So over that 10-year period, year 10 to year 20, I have leverage from policy 2 that I could be taking. But notice, I'm not. I'm just letting policy 2 continue to grow. And in 10 years, I would have accumulated 500,000 in cash value. And when I show you in the calculator, that equates to about 52,000 in income. And then that 10,000 that I have left over, I really didn't know what to do with it. That's extra $10,000 that he has available to him. And if you remember, why is that? 5,000 went into the original policy. The max contribution that I could put into the second policy is 35 grand. So there's still 10 grand left over that he gets to travel, put it in a high yield savings account, open up policies for his kids. Like there's many different things that we can do. Didn't even go into that. I just wanted to highlight year 20. So if you don't mind, slide back over to the calculator and let's take a look at year 20. So remember, he's 25 years of age at the start. This is the first 10 years. The first 10 years, he created cash flow or cash value of about 73,000. And we took that 73,000 in cash value and we've leveraged it in year 10. We leveraged it in year 11. So let's look at year 2. Meaning, I'm sorry, not year 2. Let's call it year 11. So from 25 to 35, what would this look like at 36? Because at year 10, he took 45,000. At 36, would he have more available to him that he would be able to leverage? If he leveraged 45,000 in year 1, would he have another 45,000 available is the question. You might argue that if he took a $45,000 loan in year 10, if he took a $45,000 loan at year 10, at year 11, he may not have enough. Might be your argument. But if you remember, we started a second policy. That second policy was from 35, starting at 35 till, and again, I run it out 10 years, but let's go to age 36 in the second policy. In age 36, in the second policy, putting away $35,000, how much cash value is there? So in addition to the, 88,000 that was sitting in policy 1, he has additional cash value of another 33. So if he has 88,000 in one policy, 33,000 in another policy, would it be possible at year 11 to leverage 45,000 to pay his bills? I think the answer is yes. And this continues year after year till year 20. So let me go back to the original policy and just jump right to year 20. So age 25, year 20 would be age 45. Been putting away the same $417 a month every year for the last 20 years. He would have available, without even looking at cash value, by the way, he would have available at year 20, 31,000 in tax-free dollars that he can leverage in this policy. It's not 45, but it's close. And in addition, he has cash value, which I showed over here on this last over on the vibe board. He has 280,000 in cash value available. So again, the maths. Now let's look at year 20. It's year 20 in total, but inside this second policy, it's actually only year 10, right? So he started this second policy at age 35. So now let's look at this at age 45. That's $35,000 a year for 10 years. Notice, without even looking at the cash value. At year 20, he would have 52,000 tax-free income available to be able to leverage out of this policy as income. 30,000 in one policy, 52,000 in another. That's 83 grand. I think it's 31 and 52. 83 grand. That's available in just income for both policies at year 20. So year 10, he was between year 1 and year 10, he was leveraging, between year 1 and year 10, he was building cash value. From year 10 to year 20. So year 1 to year 10, he was building cash value. Year 10 to year 20, in one policy, he's building cash value. And in another policy, he's building cash value. And he's able to leverage both of them during that 10-year span. And the amount of cash value, as I mentioned, was $500,000. So at year 20, does he need to still borrow cash value to be able to pay his bills? Now, I've said a lot, but let me say it again. From years 1 to 10, he was building cash value. At year 10, he had 73,000 in his first policy. He's now borrowing 45,000 out of that policy. And sweetheart, if you slide over to the vibe board again, he has 45,000 that he's leveraging in that policy. And because he's leveraging that 45,000, he has now accumulated a total of about 450,000 of borrowed money in the first policy. And we can say it's 450,000 between these two policies if you like. You can say it however you want, but the bottom line is if he's borrowing $45,000 every year for 10 years, he has an accumulated borrowed dollar amount of 450,000. Who's paying that? It's still owed. It's just hanging out there. But my point is this, without addressing the 450, without even paying any attention to the 450,000 that's been leveraged, my question is this. Now, starting at year 20, does he still need to continue borrowing money from his policy? Or does he have enough does he have enough income being generated by both policies to now supplement his income, to now supplement and pay for his expenses? Well, let's see. If you've got 31,000 in one policy and 52,000 in another policy, that's 83 grand. So by year 20, he no longer needs to borrow from his cash value. So this 450 is just sitting there and it's still collecting interest, by the way. But now he's in a position to now take income from his policies both at year 20. And when he starts taking income from these policies, that's a total of 80 grand, almost double what he needs. But now let's move over to year 30. Another 10 years go by. Another 10 years go by. And where is this 50,000 coming from? This is still his normal income. He's still making money. And so he's still dumping money into this policy, 5 into the original, 35 into the other, and there's still 10 grand hanging out. And cash value is still continuing to grow, but we're actually using leverage money to pay our expenses. So his income is no longer paying expenses. His income is solely going towards these policies. Well, by the year 30 mark, he would have accumulated cash value of about 800,000. He would have income available to him of about 81,000. And in policy number 2, 35 grand for 20 years, he would have accumulated cash value of $1.9 million. He would have access to income of 215. Now I can show you in the calculator if you don't believe me. But the point is he worried about $45,000 anymore? All because he adjusted how he was focusing on where the money was going. For the first 10 years, yeah, it was 45,000 going to expenses, 5 going into a secure compound interest account. But there was this point where he had enough cash value that he could shift. And he could shift and start using his leveraged dollars to pay his expenses. And when he did that, he could truly become self-directed. He could truly take control of where his money was going, and he could truly pay himself first, meaning put all of his income to work and use the leveraged dollars to pay his expenses. Now, I know we got questions, but I want to make sure I highlight some things as we start talking about these questions. There are some things that I left out. What about if his income and expenses change throughout that 10, 20, 30-year period? I can address it, not a problem. We haven't addressed inflation yet, so let's do that. And then what about market fluctuations? What happens if the market crashes? Because Donnell, I know if the market crashes, someone's going to owe the life insurance company 4%. Let's talk about it. And that 450,000, that was never paid, that 450,000 is still continuing to grow. We can address that too. But let's pause here. Got any questions, sweetheart?
Yep, we have a bunch. And then we also have some text messages that came through.
Okay.
So let's see here. Let me get back to where you are here. Boop, doop, doop, doop. Okay, let's go with this.
Wow. I can read none of them.
That's okay. We just want to say we really appreciate everyone who tunes into us live. You really make the experience better for us anyway, in being able to have people to talk to, knowing that people are learning this stuff, but also that we get to answer your questions. And the only way we get to do that is if you put them in the chat or if you text us, right? So we just wanted to say thank you to everyone that was showing up. So if you're watching us, we have about 50% of our viewers tune into us on the TV. So it's important to be able to include those, there we go, those folks too. So if you're watching us from the TV and you're going, how do we text you? This is how you do it. You can take out your phone and open up your camera app, and then there'll be a little yellow thing that floats around that box. You just click on that. The reason why I'm saying this, people are like, Angelique, everyone knows how to use a QR code. Well, you know what? We were in a shoe store. Not everybody knows how to do it.
Not everybody
We
knows.
want to make sure that you know how to do it. If you need to reach us, that's how to do it. Or just take a screenshot and then text us at this number, okay? So make sure you put your name, or unless you want to be anonymous, that's totally fine with us. We will answer your question even if you are anonymous.
And let me preface these questions with, I intentionally left a lot out because I wanted to at least get through the example. I am open to addressing everything, but I intentionally left a lot out. And as I mentioned, I got a few questions that I still want to address on my own anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So from Veronica, do you include a vacation a year in the annual expenditures? Is it just bills and living expenses?
So, and that's why I didn't parse the 45 grand. The gentleman makes $50,000. He put 5,000 away. Whatever he does with the remaining 45 is whatever he does with the remaining 45. So think of it from your own perspective. If you were putting away 10% of your income, $5,000, and you had 45 left, 9 times out of 10, the bills you paid were the bills you paid. The debts you paid were the debts you paid. There was some cash flow there. There was some leftover. And whatever you did with that, I didn't even account for it. I didn't even add it as extra that could go into this policy. So you want to include in vacations? Absolutely. Vacations are included. Not a problem. Whatever he could do with the $45,000 that he had, he did. From my perspective, it was zero at the end of the year. And then he got paid again another 50,000. 5 went this way, 45 was spent, whatever it was spent on. So yes, go ahead.
It was spent on whatever it was spent on. Harry says, would this apply to a person that is already retired but wants to invest? And will it be taxed if you are over 59 years of age? Now, we had a couple other comments in here, people saying like, I don't know, I think I'm probably too old to get started with something like this. And here's what I want to say first off, because I just want to make sure that we add this part in. We have talked quite a bit on the concept of the family bank, because the main focus of everything that we talk about is knowing where your leverage is. For some of you, you may not be able to leverage time due to your age, due to the cost of whatever that might be. You might not have that option. It could be for health reasons, right? It could be for all those reasons. When we talk about the family bank, so if you're new to our channel, maybe you're not, but you just haven't seen those videos, go through and see and find the ones that say the family bank on the thumbnail. Then you'll know those are the ones that you need to be paying close attention to be able to find your leverage within your own community.
And just so we're clear, 59 is not too old. But here's the truth. And I'm throwing myself in the same bucket. We don't have as many compound cycles as our kids. So if I've got an 18, 20, 20, and two 23-year-olds. And the moral of the story is they have far more compound cycles than I do. So if I'm thinking I can, at 59 years of age, I can put away $200 a month and still be able to retire, it's not happening. But if you're just conscious of the fact that because you have less compound cycles available to you, and you're aggressive about your approach and being able to build this income, this absolutely is a vehicle that you can be able to contribute to still be able to build wealth. And the fact that you're retired may impact the amount of life insurance you're able to qualify for. As I mentioned, there's a max insurability. And that max insurability is a multiplier times your age. You're 59, you're right on the cusp of going from, I believe, 10% of your income down to 7, I believe. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty confident I'm right. And so what that means is now, if you're wanting to be able to contribute into a vehicle like this is that point, because when you hit that 60-year mark, the amount that you're able to qualify for is less. And again, if the goal here is income, Now, if you're talking about buying life insurance, there's many other vehicles, many other ways to go about buying life insurance. But if the goal is income, if the goal is putting yourself in a position to where you can generate and build income, now's the time to take that action because you're on the cusp of your max insurability changing. Next question.
Richard Yearwood says, would you mind restating what leverage dollars is or are?
I love it. And I'm not even going to use this example. Anyone who has had a traditional retirement account, like a 401k, if you haven't borrowed against your 401k, I know you know someone who has borrowed against their 401k to go pay for a wedding, buy a car, buy a home. We are known for pilfering our retirement dollars to be able to do other things.
What was the
What
word? Is that word of the day?
pilfer? Pilfer?
Pilfer?
Pilfering.
Okay.
Pilfering. Pilfering. I can't spell it, but I think I said it right. So if you got this 401k and let's say I'll make up a number. Let's say you've got $100,000 in your 401k. Well, the truth is you're able to leverage, borrow 50% of what's in your 401k up to $50,000. 9 times out of your 10, your employer won't allow you to borrow the full 50%. They'll allow you to borrow something less than that. But the truth is, inside of your company's 401k with $50,000 in it, you're able to borrow up to 50% of what's in it, up to $50,000. So let's say you do that. When you borrow that $50,000, what are the tax implications of you borrowing that money from your 401k? There aren't any because you do not pay taxes on leveraged dollars. This is no different. Leverage is just a fancy word for saying borrow. If you go to a bank to get you're looking to buy a car and you go to a bank to get a loan to buy that car. That loan for that car, you are leveraging money from the bank to now buy that car. You're leveraging that money from the bank to go buy a vehicle or an asset, and then you're going to pay back that loan that you borrowed. Again, this is no different. This is a properly designed life insurance product, and because you build cash value, based off whatever the tax code 7702 and all the other tax codes associated with having life insurance, you're able to leverage, you're able to borrow that cash value as it accumulates. And so that's all we're talking about here. Leverage is just a fancy word for saying borrow.
Okay, we got one from Sakia Hicks. She's new here, and she says, what is the best wealth tool?
Yeah, man. I think in order for me to answer that, and since you're new here, you haven't heard this before, but there's probably somebody in the chat that's already beat me to it. The first question that I'm going to ask you is, what's your goal? Because depending on your goal might kind of determine what the best wealth tool for you might be. It's different for everybody. Not everyone is the same. And here's what I mean. Let's say you came to me and you said, I've got this previous employer's plan that is really not doing much for me over in Vanguard. I want to be able to put that money to work, grow it securely, like you said, put it in some type of a vehicle that'll allow me to build wealth with less impact to market risk. Then if it's qualified dollars, there's several things we can do. We can move it to a self-directed IRA, a self-directed 401k. We can move it into an annuity. There's many options available to you. But if you said, you know what, I've got this money sitting in savings, because I was expecting the dollar to be de-dollarized and it didn't happen. I got my money out of Bitcoin and I've got this $100,000 sitting there doing nothing. Can I get this savings that I have and put it to work? You absolutely can. A secure compound interest account might be that route for you. But in order to have a secure compound interest account, and since you're new here, I'll go a little bit further. What is a secure compound interest account? It's a properly structured, properly designed life insurance policy that allows you to build wealth. And in addition, there's a feature inside this product that is different from other cash value life insurance policies. This feature is leverage. This feature is the participating loan coming from the life insurance company being placed back into this policy and allowing that money to grow exponentially. So as a result, that vehicle can produce 2, if not 3 times that of your traditional retirement account and outperform your traditional whole life and variable life and even IUL life insurance based policy. So I gave you more than probably what you asked for. But the bottom line is that the best wealth tool kind of depends on your goal. It's specific to you. Go ahead.
Okay, so you're talking about leveraged money, and Carol, I thought, had a great question. She said, wait. I thought we weren't supposed to touch that money ideally. So
Yep.
if we start a secure compound interest account and we start messing with that money, Then
It's
what? So,
impacting the growth, right?
yeah.
So again, it goes back to the goal. The goal here for this gentleman was to hit his freedom number. So I get it. And you've probably heard me say this before. You want to allow your money to compound because as your money starts to compound, it builds cash value, and then you can that cash value turns into income. And what I just did here was he put that $417 a month into his policy, and I allowed it to build. I allowed it to compound for 10 years. I didn't have to. We could have started taking, borrowing or leveraging that policy earlier, because 73,000 is a lot compared to the 45,000 that he needed. So the minute he had 45,000 available to him in a participating loan, we could have started leveraging it then. Why didn't I do that? I did that specifically for the reason that you're referencing. I wanted to give his money more time to compound so that when he started leveraging his cash value, he didn't cause his policy to implode or impact his ability to continue to build income. So there was a reason why. But you are absolutely right. And it's not that you can't touch. And I'm going to go, you use the words we're on supposed. It's not that either. There is an ask. And let me break it down. You're putting away $5,000 a year. You put in $5,000 in year one. From a cash value perspective, would you have $5,000 available to you? The short answer to that question is no. You put in $5,000 in year one, there are fees associated with an account like this. So that $5,000 might look more like $4,200. I'm making up a number. But that's year one. In year two, you would have put in another $5,000. That's 10 grand. Would you have $10,000 of cash value available to you? Probably not. Probably somewhere around 8,500. Meaning the deficit is getting smaller, but you still haven't broken even. Well, at year three, so again, year one, you put in 5,000. Year two, you put in 5,000. Year three, you're now putting in an additional 5,000. That's 15,000 total. Well, starting in year three, leverage kicks in. Starting in year three, the life insurance company is going to add an additional 5,000 of leverage into this policy, which means now you have $20,000 working for you at year three instead of only 15. Now you're starting to make money inside this policy. And 9 times out of 10, you would break even at that year 3 point, meaning you've put in 15,000. You now have 15,000 of cash value available. So you've broken even. Now from this point forward, it's all gravy. From this point forward, you're building cash value. You're generating more and more cash value. Your money is compounding. What we want to do is get it compounding to a point where when you go to leverage it, you don't hurt yourself. So you're not supposed to, not true. It's a cash value life insurance policy. You can leverage the cash value you have at year one if you wanted to. We just ask that you allow to year three because at year three is when the relock feature kicks in. So there's not a contract that you sign that said you can't touch your cash value. This is a cash value life insurance policy. It's yours. You can touch it however you want, when you want. You can use it for whatever you want. But there is an ask. And the reason we ask is because at year three, the game changes. At year three, the leverage kicks in and now you break even and now you have the ability to make other decisions. But no one said you could not touch your cash value at year one, year two, year three, year 7, or whatever the case may be. It is yours. It is accessible to you. It is your emergency fund. So if you had an emergency and you needed to access those funds, it's available to you. Hopefully that answers. Keep going, sweetheart.
Yep. Well, I mean, that was kind of Connie's question too. There's a few people that had the same question.
You told me I couldn't
No.
touch my money.
No. It's how long does it take until you can leverage the money? We have Connie asked that question. Roderick asked that question.
And how about this?
A few people did.
And if you were to go to the text messages, Jacqueline asked that question. Like I get this question all the time. And Jacqueline told me my answer was too vague.
Ooh.
I'm about to give you another vague answer because here's the truth. It depends.
On what?
It depends on the amount you've contributed. It depends on your age. It depends on the rate at which your account is growing. It depends on how much you're wanting to leverage.
Does it depend on your goal? Do I have a sound effect?
That was legitness. Yeah, it was. Huh?
It all depends. But how long does it take for let's go back to this example. At year one, you put in 5,000. You don't have all 5,000 working for you, but you do have cash value that has grown. And let's call it 4,200. How much of that 4,200 would you be able to leverage if you wanted to? How about 50%? So if you needed $2,000 to go pay a bill, you wanted to use it for velocity banking, you absolutely could do that. No one is going to stop you from doing it. But just know the impact of you borrowing that $2,000 impacts year three, because in year three, what are we doing? We're grabbing everything from year one, pulling it into year three. If you've now leveraged 2,000 of that, you will not have 5,000 or 4,200 or whatever that dollar amount is available at year three to pull in, because you've already borrowed against it. So all we're doing is asking that you wait. But the bottom line is, depending on what it is you need, depending on the circumstance you're in, this is your savings account. You can access that money whenever you would like. There's no one that can tell you you can't.
Yeah, I think the difference here though is that you can leverage it
You can.
versus being penalized
That's right. That's
or
right.
having to take a hit just to be able to leverage it. For some people, they've taken these significant hits on their retirement accounts to buy a home. They've done this for medical emergencies. They've
That's right.
done this for life-changing events where they needed to have access to these funds. They've done this because something completely out of their control, like the company that they worked for went under. Well, it's not their fault, right? However, they were penalized for having to be able to leverage that to bridge a gap, whatever the case may have been. For the majority of people, there's a large number. I don't know what that percentage is, but let's just pretend it's ridiculous and unnecessary, because that's what it is, right? Who have to leverage this for medical expenses.
Right.
And if you think that it is a risk right now, any medical expense, a significant medical issue could come up and wipe you out. Imagine the risk when you're older, right? Imagine the risk when you are not guaranteed that you are in a physical condition to trade your time for money. These are the conversations that we need to be having, because right now, I've been saying this for at least 3 streams now. Right now, we're about to go into a season where people get themselves in a lot of trouble, and it takes them a long time to come out. And it's all worth it to see their little faces. And that's what we tell ourselves. That's what we sell ourselves, that it's worth it to abandon our goal for 2 months of the year, at least 2, 3 months of the year. We just don't. What goals? New holiday, who dis? We don't have any goals. We will pick them back up on January 1st when we make some New Year's resolutions and we go, okay, now I'm going to get serious about my goals. We can't do that anymore. We have to start new habits. We have to start having even if it means new circles, new people around us. So the point that I just wanted to throw in there was that you can leverage this. And for those who are thinking about it in a way like, okay, well, if I have this, if I need it, I can leverage it. What you're showing them today is you can leverage it in a different way that isn't for emergencies. You can leverage it to grow it exponentially larger. You can leverage it in the way that the rich and the wealthy leverage these types of tools all the time and have been for years. This is why certain families came up after the Great Depression, because they started moving their money into vehicles that were like this, vehicles that ensured that the wealth that they were creating were transferable and could be passed on from generation to generation. And therefore, the next generation had that step up. And while we're sitting around here going, oh, you must have been a trust fund baby, lucky you. Well, we need to be making some. Why can't we? Right?
Got to
Why
start
can't we?
somewhere.
Why can't we form together as a community? If you are a single mom, then we need to start building a community of other people who are like-minded, who are on the same journey, because there is a win-win out here. Somebody doesn't have to lose in order for everyone to freaking win with these types of strategies, right? And that's what I think is the best part, is that no one has to lose for these strategies to work. With traditional, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to say it. I was going to stop myself and reel it back in, but I'm going to say it. We're going forward. With traditional whole life insurance policies, somebody has to lose, because what has to happen in order for that wealth to be transferred? No, Grandpa's not here to see what you did with those funds. He was not even here to teach you about it, right? But if we would be utilizing these types of strategies and recognizing tools are actually leverage, and that we are evolving with the amount of tools that we have accessible to us right now, and being able to use those, we will change the game, folks. Change the game. Your family and everyone that comes from you changed forever simply because there was information and time. And that's powerful. So I'll move on to the next question.
And if you pay attention to Abel, what he just did was he created a pension,
Yeah, well,
right?
he created more than a pension.
No doubt. But he created a vehicle that will sustain his lifestyle forever.
Forever. There is not a single thing that will happen in his family that he's not like, we're good. Don't worry about it. What do you want? Where do
So
we want to
this
go?
is the
What do we want to
return
do?
of the pension.
Right. Man, it's powerful. Okay. How to invest for yourself. Hello, by the way. I've already said hi in the chat. We'd love to see people come back. Question. So just to be clear, you can borrow from the cash value at 41% of that value, or would you be able to borrow 100%?
Yep.
It's thinking music.
So it's all about when this leverage occurs, which is why I ran this out 10 years. Because at year 6, would there have been enough cash value inside this policy for him to be able to leverage that 45,000? Possibly. How much of that cash value would he have been able to leverage? Would he have been able to leverage 80, 90, 75, 72? Again, to stay out of that conversation, that's the reason I ran this out 10 years, because I wanted there to be no question that there was enough room in this policy to be able to leverage it to do other things. Because here's the truth. We absolutely probably could have done it earlier. And here's why. If I'm going to put the rest of my money into a second policy at $35,000 a year, whatever I couldn't leverage in the first policy, I would have been able to leverage in the second. So, but I didn't even want to play that game. So just to be clear, you can borrow from cash value at 41% of the value. Here's what I know inside of a secure compound interest account like this. And I know what I know, what I know. I have seen anywhere from 30. I have yet to see anything above 55% in year 1 that you're able to leverage. 30 to 55% in year 1 that you're able to leverage. Year 2, it's probably, I've seen anywhere from 50 to maybe 80% in year 2 that you're able to leverage. In year 3, we're talking 98%. Year 3 on, it's game on. Now, again, the objective is matter of fact, the life insurance company wouldn't let you empty the account. They wouldn't let you. But because of the way the leverage grows, in year 3, you borrow everything from year 1. Put that in the policy. Year 5, you borrow everything from year 1 and 2. Put that in the policy. Year 7, you're borrowing everything from year 1, 2, and 3. Put that in the policy. Year 9, you're borrowing everything from years 1, 2, 3, and 4. Put that in the policy. Now we're at year 10. Look at all the leverage that we now have in this policy. As a matter of fact, at that point, it's 2 times the amount of leverage than what you've contributed. In 10 years, you would have put in 5,000 times 10, 50,000. But you would have leveraged about, double 100,000. So in total, it would have been 150,000 is what has been working for you. And at that point, the amount of leverage that you would be able to take, it's a no-brainer. You can do this all day long with your eyes closed. Hope that answered.
Yeah, I hope that answered too. Put that in your policy. Oh, word. Okay. We have an anonymous question that came in through the chat.
That's strange. Oh, no, anonymous because it came through the chat. Okay, go ahead.
It came through the text. Yeah.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah. Okay. If I borrow against my 401k now and the market crashes, how would that affect me?
So if I borrow from my 401k and the market crashes, when you borrow from your 401k, the dollar amount in your 401k doesn't necessarily change. You're borrowing against it. So they're going to write you, if you're borrowing from your employer or borrowing from your employer who has a custodian like Fidelity, you're going to get, let's use 50,000. So you're borrowing from your 401k. It has 300,000 in it. When you borrow that 50,000, you get a check for 50,000. You can use that 50,000 for whatever you want. What's the balance on your 401k? It's still 300,000, whatever that number was. I said it's still 300,000. It hasn't changed. If the market crashes, what happens to that $300,000? It's going to take a dip with the market. So if the market lost 10%, you're losing 10% inside that 401k. That $50,000 that you borrowed is still your $50,000. You're still using it. And whatever the interest rate is owed on that $50,000 is still owed. So Did it impact you? You're right, it did. But did it impact your ability to borrow against? No, you still got the 50,000. You still use the 50,000. What happened is the amount inside of your account is now less, and now you have to recover the amount that you lost. So it is definitely impacted, but doesn't necessarily impact your ability to be able to leverage from your 401k.
Okay, a lot of questions. Thank
A
you
lot
for
of
that.
words.
Okay, do I need a paid off, so no balance, or new debt tool to start velocity banking?
Yeah, absolutely not. When I personally started Velocity Banking, my credit card was maxed. And here's the thought process. It's all about the cash flow. If you have cash flow, when you put all of your income, or if you can't put all of your income onto the debt tool, doesn't matter. The point is, all of your cash flow is what lives on the debt tool. So if you got $500 in cash flow and you put all of your income in and you pay all your bills, guess what? You no longer have a maxed out credit card because there should be a $500 difference between where it was maxed out and where the limit is. So you absolutely can do velocity banking with a maxed out credit card. Velocity banking is about the cash flow. It's making sure you have enough cash flow to be able to compensate whatever the fees are associated with that debt tool, if you're using a credit card or a HELOC or whatever the case may be.
And I do think that maybe there is a little confusion with regards to wealth tool and debt tool, even though we were saying them as two different things, right?
And it's a fire hose of
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
And I just want to make sure because there are some questions in here. So for instance, April has routing dividends to Eskia seems like it works. However, it would only work if you can pay your bills instead of using velocity banking to do it. The debt tool would be too busy. See, thoughts? And I don't really understand that question. So let me move on to the next one because I think this is kind of reveals maybe some of where where the understanding might be getting a little twisted up. Could we maximize everything you're saying by using reverse velocity banking plus a retirement account plus life insurance loans to grow fastest? And April, I hope you asked this question like earlier in there, and I hope that this kind of cleared things up for you along the way because was one strategy.
Many ways to 10.
And here's the important part. There are a lot of different strategies and you said many ways to 10, but some of those ways still do not include life insurance.
Sure.
So you could be out there investing in real estate. Still doesn't include life insurance, still doesn't protect you in that way or your family, right? You could be investing in stocks and bonds and all kinds of other things. All of those money market types of accounts still doesn't make this. You still don't have life insurance. You still don't have coverage in that way, right? So in addition to all these other strategies, you would still have to purchase a tool like life insurance to be able to provide if anything were to happen to you. This is already in there. And it's all in one strategy. So you get to leverage your cash flow, or you get to leverage your cash value and your income the same way you would leverage your cash flow for reducing debt in velocity banking. But here you get to leverage it to build wealth. That's why we're calling it reverse velocity banking. I hope that makes more sense. Did you want to add something?
I thought that was well done.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Gospel says, my goal for Wealth Tool is to pay off my mortgage and pay off other debt. I'm 58, so I want to know what would be the best debt tool?
My goal for my wealth tool is to pay off my mortgage and pay off other debt. I'm 58, so I want to know what would be the best debt tool. So I'm going to say my goal for my debt tool is to pay off my mortgage and pay off my other debt. So I'm going to say this is all about velocity banking. This is all about a debt tool. And the question is, what is the best type of debt tool, right? That's ultimately what the question is being asked. So again, I hate to do this to you, but it's the truth. It depends. It depends on what you can qualify for. Maybe you have great credit. Maybe you have awesome equity in your home. And maybe you have a great interest rate on your mortgage. So could you get a first position HELOC? You'd probably qualify for one. But would it make sense to lose that great interest rate on that mortgage? Probably not. So could you get a second position HELOC? Probably so. Maybe couldn't qualify for either because you don't have a good credit standing to be able to do so. Maybe you have to leverage a personal line of credit. How about a business line of credit? Maybe a credit card. Maybe there's some 0% credit cards available that you can. So there's just so much. It is specific to you. It truly depends. And I heard the goal. The goal is to pay off the mortgage and the goal is to pay off the debt. Well, if you were talking to me about it, my question is why? Because just because that's the goal doesn't mean that's the path that you should be going down. I heard the age. Maybe without saying it, you are good as it relates to retirement. Maybe you are in a great place and none of that even matters, and paying off the debt just makes you puts you in a better place as it relates to retirement. But those are some of the questions that I want to ask, because just flat out, what is the debt tool that can help you do velocity banking? It is specific to each individual. So there are a
Well,
lot of other factors that need to be known.
you know what this is giving? This is giving, I'm going to pay off my debt before I start building wealth.
And I
That's
didn't
what
want to
this
say
is.
that,
Yeah,
but I
no,
don't, because I don't
let's
want to
just call it
assume.
out, because
But I'm
that's
right there with
exactly
you.
what a lot of people think. And
That's
this
what
is
I'm
the
right there with you.
flaw, is that by the time, when are you going to do it? When
Right.
is this going to happen for you? And so, and
Let's say
this
it
is,
takes you 5 years to pay off the home. You're now, what is that, 50 or 62? So you're going to wait till 62 to start building wealth? Like, no.
no, we all have to start from somewhere, but I'm triggered. Obviously, it's not by your question. It's not by what you said. This is why, and I'm going to explain why, because my energy is not, it's not directed at you in this question or anybody else who has a question like this. Okay. It is because there are so many people out here who are advising. Okay, let's just be real. They are advising.
They are.
Their gospel for debt reduction, or their gospel for, and I'm using this word gospel for a reason, because they are literally using this sentiment to rally people in around an idea that is not actually going to help them. So I actually love that your name is gospel, because this actually kind of fits. The word on the street right now is that you need to pay off all your debt and then you can start building wealth. But the problem is, you could pay off this house and then you could be sitting in this home completely paid off with no house payment. Oh, you still have to pay taxes on it, right? So that's not going to go away. And then on top of that, you could be sitting in there starving. You could just have a warm place to starve because you don't have any income coming in. And depending on health, depending on conditions, depending on the economy, depending on a lot of things that we cannot control, would make the difference in your quality of life.
I would much rather see that income going into a vehicle that's recruiting employees for you, meaning putting that money away in a vehicle that's generating its own income. And then you give it enough time, you can still pay off your home.
Yes.
Like, paying off your home is absolutely still an
Yeah.
option. But what if you could pay that home off from a vehicle that's actually generating a lifetime of income for you?
Yeah, it's not, my point is, it's not this or that, but we see a lot of comments like this, and we see a lot of people who are, and we're programmed to do this too. We are literally conditioned to want to pay off debt. It just makes sense. It's like, eat your dinner before you can have dessert. A financial independence and security is not dessert, folks. It's not. We deserve it. This is like the protein on your plate, right? And it is the most important thing that we are going to be able to achieve in our lives. It's the most impactful. It has the most impact on our entire systems, right? So if we are continuing this narrative that we have to pay off debt, then first we got to start talking about not getting in debt then, right? Anybody want to have that conversation with the majority of America? No, because because it's not profitable, right?
Right. Who benefits?
Yeah, right now there's a velocity banking tool for people that costs only $4,000 that will help you automate your velocity banking tool. How does that help people who are in debt? How is it helping people? Or is it just profiting, right? Are we just taking advantage of people? We're preying upon people who need help, and they're not learning, because now this tool will do it for them because they don't want to learn how to do it, or you're telling them they can't because it's too hard. It is not too hard.
Too complicated.
It's not. No, you are going to learn it right here, and we're going to do it for free. And you can get a free consultation with Donnell. You can. It's free. You can jump in and you can grab the. Here, matter of fact, we're just going to pull it up.
Well, why are you pulling it up? Because you said it. You're right. Please, you want to talk about, regardless, whether it's velocity banking, infinite banking, a secure compound interest account, a self-directed IRA, 401k, any of the strategies that we talk about, not a problem, because I am a retirement consultant. That's what I do. I'm focused on income. But just so we're clear, before we meet, there is so much information that we freely give away. There's so much information available. Before you get on my calendar, make sure you understand the reason why. If it's to figure out, hey, what is this secure compound interest account thing that he's talking about? If you were to just go to selfdirected.info, everything you could possibly want to know about it is right there.
Yeah.
From A to Z. What is it? How can you use it? What are the fees? Can you leverage it earlier? How does it compare to an IRA? How does it compare to a 401k? Wait a minute. Is this secure compound interest account an IUL? How does MPI compare to an IUL? All of it is there.
How does it compare to a whole life policy?
Absolutely. It is all there. And then, because here's what I would prefer our conversations look like. I want to focus on the goal. If the goal is to pay off your home, then let's define a path towards helping you get there. If the goal is legacy, let's define a path on how to get there. Again, there's going to be those moments where we have to talk about those details that maybe this information that we're providing doesn't cover. Meaning, I would love to be able to connect dots, cross T's and dot I's for you. Not a problem. Meaning, it's not that you don't understand what a secure compound interest account is. It's that when you do these specific things, how does these specific actions take place inside this product? That's very specific. Let's talk about it all day long. I'm just saying, in general, if you're wanting to know more, we give information away so that you can get yourself educated.
Okay, so Glass Girl says, "You lost me. How did you
Love
keep
these names.
How did you keep borrowing $45,000 each year after the first year when the cash value was $73,000 in the first year?" Yeah, what the heck, Donnell?
Yep.
That
So real
that's a
quick,
really great question because I'm sure a lot of people had that same one.
and I can go back and show, but real quick, it just as simple as this. Because in that first year, I also took the remaining 35,000, not 45, the remaining 35,000 and started a second vehicle. I have cash value growing in that vehicle, and I have cash value growing into the initial policy. So you're right. Even if there was not enough cash value left for me to be able to leverage inside the first one, I've got the second one available that I can. And then year 2, I'm doing it again. And then in year 3, which is actually year 13. Then in year 3, when the leverage kicks in that second policy, it's game over because I'm putting in 35 grand a year, 35 year 1, 35 year 2, 35 year 3, and I'm adding leverage at year 3 is game on. Now I have as much leverage as I want, again, within reason. 45 grand is, I think, within reason for us to be able to do that. So I agree with you. There is an opportunity, or there's a challenge of maybe in policy 1, there's not enough room. But that's the whole point of paying yourself first. That was the whole point of putting all of your income, or as much as you're allowed, into that second vehicle, because now you are generating enough cash value to be able to sustain. And then when you get to the following 10th year, you're done because now both vehicles are in a position to be able to produce enough income that now you can just take that income for life and ride off into the sunset. Go fire your job.
Bye. Okay. Roderick has a great question too. He says, in policy 1, the dollars leverage to pay expenses is the relock feature that grows that policy. Expenses are paid monthly. Doesn't relock have an annual draw? And I think there could be maybe some more visuals on where the relock would come in versus the strategy, because you didn't really talk about the relock, right?
I didn't talk about the leverage at all. And again, what are we, 2 hours in? I absolutely can. Here's what I would suggest. This question deserves more detail, and I am open to providing that detail. What I would ask is you allow me Wednesday to provide that detail, meaning let's dig into how the relock feature is affected during this process. And whether I use this example or another, kind of digging into how money grows inside the relock and how you're able to leverage it. So I can happily do that. But let me just high level answer this question. So again, in policy one, the leverage, in policy one, the dollars leverage to pay expenses is the relock feature that grows that policy. The fees inside of this product are all included. There is not additional fees happening on a month-to-month basis. There's 3 buckets of fees inside of all cash value life insurance policies: premium charge, expense charge, and the cost of insurance. All, not this one, all. And when you put in that $5,000 premium in year one, the premium charge is going to come out. The expense charge is going to come out. The cost of insurance is going to come out. And then the remainder of that $5,000 is going to be used to compound, which is why when you look at year one, you put in 5,000. Do you have 5,000 working for you? No. I'm going to say it's somewhere around 4,200, maybe even less. That $800 is a culmination of all of those fees combined. So these numbers that we're referencing includes those fees. And then as it relates to the relock feature, the relock feature, again, if I put in 5,000 year one, 5,000 year two, 5,000 year three, I borrow 5,000 at year three and add that into the policy. Again, these dollar amounts that we're showing are all encompassing, including the fees associated with it, because the fees don't change. The fees are the same. Go ahead. Good
Okay,
question.
cool. Yeah, no, it was a great question. And I do want to say that one of the best parts about rolling out something like this is that we can do a part 2, right? So we can you put your comments, your questions or comments in the chat if you're not the chat, the comment section if you're watching the replay, or we will try to get through, but we have a lot right
And
now.
here's the thing. I've got my own questions that I want to answer as well. And I'm okay with not, because I haven't heard one of my questions yet. So I'm comfortable with pushing those till Wednesday as well.
Okay, all right, because I know you wanted to talk about that, but I
It's
also
all good. Well, I
thought it
only
was
want to
good.
talk about it because there are people who'd like to jump in the comments and bring these things up, but I haven't heard them yet. So I'm good.
I haven't seen anybody tonight.
Love your name though.
Okay, we got Donnell times 2. Okay, he says, would the numbers differ positively if lump sum contributions are made yearly versus the same amount broken down in 12-month intervals? It's a great question.
Yes, absolutely. And here's what way that looks. If the larger year one, the larger year three. So let's say this $5,000 a month premium there was an additional 20 grand thrown on top of that. So what that means is at year three, that what's being pulled into year three is everything from year one to include that leverage dollar amount. So absolutely, the larger you make year one, the larger year three, and so that leverage just continues to carry. So would a lump sum make a difference? It would make a significant difference.
Okay.
Wait a minute. He may have also been saying this: a one-time lump sum throughout that 12. I'm sorry. If let's use the 5,000 instead of doing 417 a month, and you were just doing 5,000 a year, does that make a difference? And I will say this, there's dollar cost averaging inside this product, meaning if you're doing $417 a month, there's dollar cost, because think about it, in 417, you're getting growth on that. I'm sorry, at 417 in month one, you're getting growth on that. At year two, you have 417 and 417, so you're getting growth on that. So there's dollar cost averaging associated. So there's a slight increase in what you could potentially make inside of a product like this when you're doing a one-time lump sum payment compared to a monthly payment. So whether you asked that question or not, I just want to, because in there, it made me think that may have been what you were referencing. So I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead.
Okay, next up, we've got Louis Baker. Can you please explain again why you are utilizing 2 policies? Thanks.
Yeah. So it has to go back to how wealthy people are able to pay less in taxes and keep more of their money. And they do so because they use leveraged money to pay expenses. And so the thought process is this: the faster you can get to using leveraged money, the more of your actual income, the more money that you're actually making, you're able to put to work. So in this specific situation, in this specific example, did I need two policies? I did not need two policies to do what I am showing being done. I chose to use two policies because I figured it would get too confusing if I put both of those dollar amounts in the same policy. So I specifically kept them separate so that it would be easier to understand in this example. But specifically in a properly designed cash value life insurance product like this, you do not need two policies to be able to do this. What would happen if we didn't use two policies is this: you're putting in $5,000 a year inside this policy for the first 10 years. At year 10, we're now going to take this $35,000 and add it into this policy. Well, if we're talking about properly structured life insurance products, this $5,000, your MEC limit in this $5,000 a year that you're putting in, the MEC limit is probably $5,003, meaning there's no room in this policy to put this $35,000. So if we want to be able to put $35,000 additional dollars into this policy, we need to get approved for it. We need to do what's called a jump. We need to move the MEC on this policy. And so what does it mean to move the MEC on this policy? You simply just have to be healthy. You simply just have to qualify for it. So if I was structuring this like an actual situation, I would not be using two policies. We would just jump the original policy and add that additional cash value or add that additional contribution in along with all of the leverage. So that's kind of how we would approach that. A lot of words.
Yeah, and there are some people who are messaging in, and I would just encourage anybody else who's thinking of maybe they have questions too. If your question is very, very detailed, specific to your situation, and you may have follow-up questions, then sounds like you just need to book a call. The calls are free, so we don't want you to call in and not have your questions so that you're not getting value. Because if you don't know your numbers and you don't know what your situation looks like, which is where our free velocity banking worksheets come in handy, because this really will give you your come to Jesus moment. This will be your aha, wake up, whoa. Most people are like, no, we were pretty sure we were in a different position, but once we put it on paper, now we had to have a conversation, right? So that's know your numbers. That's the first thing. Go ahead.
That's first thing. No, that's first thing. What's the next one?
The next thing is know your numbers, and then if you want to have a discussion, or just book a call. That's all you got to do is just book a call. Frankie, do you mind putting it up on the screen, the number for the site, selfdirected.info /live or selfdirected.info. You could go there and to book a call too.
So a couple things I just want to highlight. What's required of you? If you wanted something like what we showed today, what's required of you? Because this is a strategy that fits the individual. It's specific to the individual. It's different for everyone. So what's required of you? Well, this is a life insurance based product. So first off, you do have to be healthy. You have to qualify for life insurance. And as long as you can qualify for life insurance, you can get a cash value life insurance product, a secure compound interest account, a properly designed SKIA, however you want to call it, whatever you want to name it, you absolutely can. But the other part is there has to be some cash flow here. Meaning, if this is a vehicle that you're using or looking to use to be able to generate income, there has to be some amount of cash flow available for you to be able to use it as a tool to do so. And then let's say you got your policy. What else are you responsible for? It's the commitment part. This is not Bitcoin. This does not grow fast. Notice, I'm talking about $417 a month for 10 years before this thing really jumped off, right? So you have to give your money time. So which means your time horizon has to be open enough for you to be able to give your money that time. Well, what if you don't have 10 years? Well, then you have to be a bit more realistic. If you're not going to give your money the time it needs to be able to compound, then you have to come in with a lot more money up front so that you can access that income as quickly as possible to be able to hit your freedom number.
Yeah, I want to answer
those questions, but
yeah, I'm going to answer this one really quick. $4,000 fee to do velocity banking.
Yeah.
That is an actual service for a software that's out there right now. And there are a lot of people that are saying, oh, but it's worth it. And I will tell you, how do you know? How do you know it's telling you the right thing if you didn't learn the steps to velocity banking, right? If you put your information in and your $4,000 in, how do you know that it's giving you the right steps if you don't get self-directed and self-educated to understand what the steps are? You could be paying $4,000 for software that has a glitch. You won't even know. So I'm going to call this not a scam, could be a helpful tool. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Most of the people doing velocity banking though are in up to their neck in debt, and the last thing that they need is to add $4,000, and that $4,000 should be going on to their debt tool. They could be using that to put their family and themselves in a better position, and somebody is taking advantage of them. If this was rocket something, if this was what are the other ones, the tax, what's it called, the service that you make, you do the taxes on, babe, the
Oh,
taxes one.
a TurboTax?
Yeah, if it was like something, whatever that umbrella company is, I can't think of it right now. Point is, let's just move on. Doesn't matter. They would have a small monthly fee, right?
Yeah.
So that all these people could access it. $4,000 is ridiculous, and it's a ripoff, and it's taking advantage of people. Let's just be honest. What's happening right now is that people are allowed to put whatever price they want on anything and sell anything. We could put a course out today and we could charge $10,000 for people to come in, because you know what? No, who's making the rules? You could do stuff like that. If we wanted to charge for you to call Donnell and get free information, we could do that. Who's making the rules? We could do anything that we wanted to, as long as it was like our own intellectual property, and then we could just slap a price tag on it. Then we could probably get back out here in a year from now or so, and we could talk about all the money that we made and how you can too if you just buy our other course, right? This stuff is happening all over, and what we decided was we are tired of the gatekeeping. We are tired of, because we'd already spent all this money in courses, right? We are tired of paying the entry fees. We paid the entry fees so you don't have to. How about that? We're tired of paying entry fees for people to just disappoint us because they don't have to show us that there's value inside. They're not going to show you exactly what's inside. So when you go in there and you realize you actually knew more than the person who was selling this damn course, but you paid all this money thinking that you were going to learn something and it was going to change your life, change your business, change whatever it was, right? And it didn't. It's a sad day because you don't get a refund. You got what you paid for.
So there was a question that slid by. I don't know where it is, but it basically asked, what happened with the $450,000 of leveraged cash value? What happened to the loan? I
Oh,
think it's a
here.
text question. It's a text question.
Oh, no.
Someone else asked it as well.
It was for out of 400. Yeah. I mean, it's in
So,
there. So I don't know.
yeah,
Was
it's
that
in
it?
there. It's in there. No, that's not the one, but it's in there. The
Okay.
question specifically was the 450,000 that was leveraged in the first 10 years. What happened to that? And here's the short of it: it's still accruing interest. Why am I not concerned about it? I can show you. If you go over to the calculator, I'll show you exactly why.
Okay. We're
So
going. Here we go.
let me start with the first policy. So 25 years of age, and let me go back to year 10. Let's say, where's my pen? There it is. Let's say we're at the 35-year mark, right? 35 years. No, I'm sorry. It's not 10. So it would be 20 at the 20-year mark, because I would have used it for 10 years, and that's where I would have had 450,000 in cash value that I would have been used. So 20-year mark would be 45. So at that 20-year mark, I have leveraged 45,000 for 10 years. And because I've leveraged 45,000 for 10 years, I have, and again, 4% interest is accruing on that 450,000. But if I'm using that average of 7% growth on my money and the 4% of the money that it costs, and again, this is an average. I get it. There's down markets in there, but on average, I still would come out positive in in cash value of about, or interest earned of about 170,000. Did that math. But still, I still owe 450,000 on this loan. I paid the interest. I wasn't paying on the loan. What happened with the loan? Well, let's say at the end of that 20-year mark, you passed. There's a $450,000 loan outstanding, and you passed away right here, never paying back that 450,000. Well, before your beneficiaries receive 1.3 million, 450,000 would have come out of that number. But remember, at the end of the first 10 years, we also started another policy. So we've got a second policy that's been in place for 10 years. What about that one? Well, so we would have addressed the 450 here, which means your beneficiaries would receive the difference of, what is that? Let's just call it 850,000 or something like that. But we also have this second policy. We've got this second policy that's also been in place for the same 10 years that we've put $35,000 a year in. And God forbid, let's say you passed away at that point. Well, this $5.5 million death benefit is what also went to your beneficiaries. And nothing is coming out of that because we addressed that 450 in the first policy. So 850,000 plus 5.5 million is what's going to your beneficiaries. Do I care about $450,000? And how about this? Even though we've been paying the interest for the last 10 years, what if we didn't? Do I care about 450,000 and the impact on my policy? Why is that? It's because it's properly designed. Because this is properly designed, the impact of this loan being outstanding isn't as impactful as long as you're making money in the policy and the leverage is continuing to grow. And again, it's properly structured. So yes, I intentionally did not mention that 450,000 anymore. So I appreciate the question, but that 450,000 is continuing to grow. So if it continues to grow for 20 years, this is 10 years. What if now there's 10 years inside this policy, that 450, let's say that 450 has turned into 2 million. I'm making up a number. Let's say that 450,000 has turned into 2 million. Okay. Well, when you pass, let's call it 20 years from now, at 55, let's say God forbid Abel passed away at 55. He owes 2 million off that loan. That's $6.9 million of death benefit is what's sitting here. Are we concerned? I don't think so.
Okay, I've got two questions I'm going to kind of put together. Growing Up Jamaican says, I just turned 50. Could this still benefit me? Or maybe I just need to put my children in position. So there's one. And then Lolo says, would it be possible to get requalified and just increase contributions? If so, mathematically, would that be more advantageous?
And that goes with, so let me do Lolo first. That goes with that question around, why do I have two policies? You shouldn't. If it's a properly designed product, all you are doing is requalifying for more room inside the policy that you have, and you dump all 35,000 or whatever you qualify for into the new policy, and you continue moving forward. So in this example, we're kind of because we started a brand new policy, we started a brand new compound cycle. Whereas if you're putting all of this money into the same policy, you're taking off you don't have to start over in compound cycles. So how about this? The example that I'm showing, this number is actually less than what would actually be, because imagine putting that $35,000 in on top of your 5,000 starting at year 10, which means you've already got these previous years of leverage that you're already bringing into the policy, and you're adding more space. Like it's huge, the amount of cash value and income that would be available to you. I kept it separate just to make it easy. So I think you're spot on. And then what was that other question, sweetheart?
Well, it was, if they feel like they are aged out of
50 years old.
But hold on. What if you aren't healthy at year 11 or as healthy? What happens then? So I think it's the concept of leveraging somebody, like your insurable interest. Yeah. Okay.
So first off, 50, I find it disrespectful because I'm 50. So first off, being 50, is it too late? Absolutely not. You're 50 years old, and here's what we have to realize, though. We don't have as many compound cycles as our kids. So if you're going to get into a product like this and the goal is income, because it depends on the goal, right? If the goal is income, then what we have to do is be realistic. What do you need to contribute inside of a product like this to be able to produce the income that you want? And that's a mathematical equation. It's not emotional. It's math. And if you're in a position to be able to produce or contribute that dollar amount, then it's game on. But what if you don't qualify? What if at age 11 what if you were able to qualify from years 1 through 10, and then at year 11 you were not able to qualify? So I answer them both. At year 11, you still built up. At year 11, this is permanent life insurance. You can't lose the life insurance that you have. So just because you don't qualify for more doesn't mean you've lost what you have. What that means is we can't get any additional money in here. But you still have leverage that's accruing. You still have that leverage. And guess what you could do with that leverage? You could take that leverage and open up a policy on your kids. You could take that leverage and max fund your wife policies. You could take that leverage and do infinite banking. And then for the 50-year-old who may not qualify, you have what's called insurable interest, meaning maybe we focus on a family bank. Just because you can't qualify doesn't mean your kids can't, doesn't mean your wife can't. So maybe you focus your attention on properly structuring policies for them, and we roll all of that up into a trust. And now that trust starts to distribute income for the next 500 years of your legacy. So there's many different options here.
Okay, Lewis says, are you level or increasing?
I love it. See, Lewis knows what's going on here. So let me be very specific. And this is just for me and Lewis and anyone else out there who does life insurance that might understand it. Let me be very, very specific. The secure compound interest account that I'm talking about is a max funded, MAX, max funded, option B as in boy, index universal life insurance policy with leverage. Now, you can get 3 of these 4 items in any IUL you want. You can get a max funded option B IUL from anywhere. But what makes this product different is the 4th part, which is the leverage. So for those who are not Lewis, what do I mean when I say max funded option B IUL with leverage? Let's talk through it. And this will answer Lewis's question. Max funded is saying this: we have to design this product with the least amount of fees. How do we do it? We max fund the policy by buying the least amount of life insurance legally possible. The less life insurance you buy, what happens? The less life insurance you buy, the less expense to you. The less expense to you, the more of your money is available to actually start building income for you. Bottom line, a max funded policy is designed to benefit you. This has to be an option B policy. Well, to understand option B, you got to understand option A. And this goes to Lewis's question. And option A is what most of us buy when we buy life insurance from, let's say, a State Farm or an Allstate or whatever the case may be. And what's happening is, let's say we're putting away $500 a month in a policy that's $200,000. Every time you put in that $500 a month, if something happened to you, step outside the door, get hit by a bus, your beneficiaries receive $200,000. That's a standard life insurance policy. Well, think about it. $500 a month, $6,000 a year, 60 over 10, 120 over 20 years is what you've contributed. You get hit by that same bus 20 years from now, you've put in 120,000. What do you think the life insurance company did with that 120,000? They compounded it. This was a gamble. The life insurance company said, we believe you're going to outlive this policy. So therefore, we're going to take that 120,000 and turn it into $500,000. And then, God forbid, you pass 20 years from now, you're only going to get the $200,000 that you paid for. That's a level death benefit, meaning regardless of how much money you put into this policy, the life insurance, all you bought was life insurance. The death benefit equals the life insurance. So as you contribute to this policy, the death benefit doesn't change. It's always $200,000. Versus an option B policy, which is how this is structured. Option B is saying you're putting in that $500 a month, but that $500 a month is adding cash value. As that cash value increases, the death benefit is actually 2 numbers. The death benefit is the $200,000 that you originally bought in life insurance, and all that cash value and the growth on that cash value from that $120,000 that you put in. So that $500,000 that you created, plus that life insurance, there's actually more of like a $700,000 death benefit payout in your 20s. So is it a level death benefit or increasing? It's increasing. But Lewis, this is for you as well, up until a point. It's increasing up until it varies from person to person depending on your age, income, and health. But it's increasing up until, let's say you are a fairly healthy person, so it might be increasing up until age 75. And then at age 75 is going to level. Why? Because as we get older, the cost of insurance steadily increases. So the reason we want to level out the death benefit is because we don't want to continue paying that expense of the cost of insurance. So therefore it will level out at whatever that age be, 70, 68, 72, whatever that age would be. But here's the moral of the story around all of that. It's all about design. It's all about structure. And you can't get that design and structure from just anywhere. So you have to understand what it is you're talking about. So I appreciate that, Lewis.
When you said, Lewis, this is for you, all I could think was, Lewis, this one's for you. We should have a fits. It goes. We're rolling with it. Okay, we've got a lot of questions here. Ben's in the chat. He says, "Will the life insurance policy defer the repayment?" Ben's in the chat. Ben's in the chat. Will the life insurance policy defer the repayment of the leveraged money and its interest at the time of death?
See, and I think Ben is asking this question for everybody else because Ben answered the question in the question. So will the life insurance policy defer the repayment of the leveraged money and its interest at the time of death? Well, until the time of death. That shouldn't say at the time of death. I think he meant to say until the time of death. And that is true. See, here's the thing. When you have a properly designed product, everyone is on the same page as building as much cash value as possible, building as much income as possible, because everybody wins when you do this. So when you're dealing with a properly designed product, you actually have the life insurance company as a partner. So what that means is even though the market crashed and there's a negative cash value or there's an interest rate that's owed, so you may owe more money to the life insurance company. The life insurance company is going to say, we don't want to screw up the compound interest. We're going to defer all interest payments until you die. So you're absolutely correct. This properly designed product, it's actually a system, it's a team, it's a machine that we're all focused on the same thing, and that's building income. So you're absolutely right. The interest payments are deferred until you pass. And once you pass, you only owe interest. That leveraged dollar amount that you're referencing, you never had it to begin with. That leveraged dollar amount, where is it? That leveraged dollar amount is still in the general fund, and I'm getting very technical. There's a whole lot that I haven't covered, but Ben, I know you and I are on the same page. That leveraged dollar amount that you borrowed, that borrowed dollar amount was never with you. It was never in your pocket, so you don't owe it. What you may owe is the interest that was owed during a down market. But as far as throughout a normal performing year, the interest is paid for by the growth on the money in the policy. So you don't owe the principal. You don't owe interest. You would only owe interest on the years when the market crashed. And that's that's an additive amount, not a cumulative amount. And here's what I mean. If the market crashed in 2015, you would owe interest in 2015. It's deferred. If the market didn't crash in 2017, you don't owe in 2016. Let me start over. The market crashed in 2015, you would owe the interest owed in that year. In 2016, when the market recovered, no down market, you don't owe interest anywhere. Even if you owed it in 15, you don't now magically owe that same dollar amount in 16, nor in 17. But in 2018, if the market crashed, you would owe interest on a brand new dollar amount. So the dollar amount from 2015, that interest amount, you would owe, not the principal. The interest amount in 2018, you would owe, not the principal. Those two dollar amounts are added together. And if you were to pass in 2019, the life insurance company would take that added dollar amount from 2015 and 2018, take that out of the death benefit. That's just the interest. The principal, you never had it to begin with. You don't owe it. The principal, the life insurance company would just take back. They would take it back because it's sitting in the general fund. You don't have access to it.
All right. How does changes in the market impact ABLE?
How do changes in the market?
Yeah.
So how does changes in the market impact ABLE? So for that, I think the easiest thing to do would be to run through an example and show you. What I will do is I will take your 10. Let's look at year 10. If you remember year 10, he had been contributing the $5,000 into the policy. He had $73,000 of cash value. The objective was to leverage the 23,000, or I'm sorry, the 45,000 at year 10 to be able to pay his bills. If there was a market crash right then, and there was a 0% year that occurred right then, how would this policy be impacted? And I think the easiest thing to do would be to show it. So it's going to be a little bit, I'll call it, I'm going to jump down the rabbit hole a little bit. So a lot of numbers involved, but I think that's the easiest way to explain.
You want the vibe board?
I want the Bible.
All right, here we go. No, I'm going to put a thing back on it. Fun thing. There we go. Here we go.
Okay. So if we remember, treating year 10 as though it's a positive year, that $50,000 that's sitting in this cash value is still making on average 7%. That's about $3,500. The 45 that we leverage, it cost us 4%, which means it cost us about 18. This difference, the difference between what we made and what it cost us, this is the net interest earned. But let's say, let me go with red. Let's say this was a 0% year. So this $50,000, I'm supposed to make 7%, but I didn't. I made 0%, which means I made zero. But the life insurance company doesn't care. I still borrowed the 45,000 to pay my expenses, right? I did not, because the market crashed, I did not take the 45,000 or leverage the 45,000 from my cash value to be able to pay my bills. I had to still pay my bills. So when I leveraged this $45,000, it still cost me 4%, which means I still owe $1,800. Well, who and how is that $1,800 being paid? Per Ben, because Ben was spot on when he said it. Well, that $1,800 is still owed to the life insurance company, but the life insurance company understands compound interest. So I'm not going to get some invoice in my mail that says, "Hey, Donnell, I know you didn't anticipate the market crashing, but I'm going to need my $1,800 when the market crashed." That does not happen. There's two things that takes place, and you won't notice either one of them. The first one is the life insurance company is going to defer all interest payments until I die. So this $1,800 is not even a factor. But the life insurance company needs to keep track of how much interest I owe. So what's going to happen is it's a ledger move. And to understand the ledger move, I need to look at something real quick. You don't need to move or change screens. I just need to look at it real quick. Give me just a minute. So what I'm doing is I'm changing the age back to 35 in the calculator. So 25 to 35. What I'm looking for is how much leverage did I have at age 35 inside this policy. So I have a total of $110,738 of relock, $110,738 of leverage in the policy. So there's $2 amounts that I want to share with you. There's see how you do it in black. There's the cash value that I have, which is $73K. And then there's the leverage that I have from the life insurance company. I'll make it yellow, of 110,000. I'll just make it 110. So those are the $2 amounts that are working for me. 73,000 of my money, which it shows above, and the 110 in a relock in leverage that I'm borrowing from the life insurance company. Well, in this year, somebody owes the life insurance company $1,800. And as I mentioned, they're going to defer all interest payments. But to keep track of it, here's what the life insurance company is going to do. They're going to say, hey, just so we can make sure we keep track of how much interest is owed, we want to do what's called a ledger move. So just before I do that, let's be clear. 73 plus 110, that's 183,000. 73 plus 110 is how much money is working for me in this year. 73 of my money, that's my cash value, plus 110 is what I'm borrowing from the life insurance company. 73 plus 110 is working for me, that's 183,000. Someone owes the life insurance company, the 110 side, someone owes the 110 side $1,800 because that's the interest that's owed on the money that was leveraged. You may be questioning, why don't I owe 45,000 plus the 18?
Actually, he was questioning, can we have less than 0% than a 0% year?
Absolutely not, because there's a 0% floor. That's what makes this so powerful. That zero. So now I couldn't finish the last one. Now I'm jumping into this one, but let's go. Because of the 0% floor, what that ultimately means is there is a contractual guarantee, not a Donnell guarantee, not even an MPI guarantee. This is a life insurance company guarantee that you can't lose the money you've made. You can't lose the money you've accumulated due to market risk. So even if the market loses 24%, the max you will lose is the money that was used to buy the call option. So in a 0% year, the amount of money you have in the general fund goes nowhere. But again, because I'm leveraging this dollar amount, there is $1,800 that's owed. So what's going to happen is the life insurance company, because again, this is one bucket, meaning these two numbers are in the same bucket working together in the general fund. The life insurance company is going to say, hey, that $1,800 you owe me, I'm going to move it from this dollar amount. Let's say that ends up being, let me do some quick math. Is that a 2? Yeah, 2, a 1, and a 7. 0. So 71,200 is what's, well, let me change this color just so I'm not getting confusing. So what's left on your side of the bucket is 71,200. And when I move this 1,800 over to this side of the equation, then what happens is this side of the equation becomes, what is that? Let me use the yellow. It becomes 1,11800. But if you add these two numbers together, how do these two numbers compare to these two numbers? So there was a 0% there was a market crash. And because of the 0% floor, I still had to pay interest. And the interest ended up being a ledger move, meaning I had to move 1,800 from this side of from my cash value into where the leverage is. But what is different about these two numbers? Meaning, how much money is working for me as a result? Did the amount of money working for me change? And the short answer to that question is no. I have satisfied the loan. Because when I move that 1,800 from my side of the bucket to the life insurance side of the bucket, I satisfied the 4%. And the principal is already here. I don't have to do anything else as it relates to the 45,000 because the principal never moved. So once I provided that 4% in interest, this loan has now become self-collateralized. As a result of it becoming self-collateralized, in year 11, I guess that's year 10. So in year 11, I can now borrow that same dollar amount again and do this all over again and not impact anything. Hopefully that answers.
Yep. Okay, we have a question from that was texted in. How do you pay bills and expenses with a whole life policy? Are you given a debt card like you would with a HELOC? Are you also able to direct deposit earned income straight into? And we haven't talked about whole life policies tonight, but I'm sure she's just okay. All right.
I got it.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to answer this question, and I'm going to group whole life with variable life, with universal life, with index universal life, with a secure compound interest account, with a premium finance strategy. I'm going to put them all in the same bucket. So how do you get money, or how do you pay bills and expenses from any cash value life insurance policy? I don't care what the name of it is. I don't care where you got it from. How do you pay bills and expenses from any cash value life insurance policy? Because it's the same everywhere. You are going to leverage, you are going to borrow against the cash value and pay bills with that borrowed amount. But how? How do you go about it? Now, every life insurance company has their own process, but in general, the process looks like this. You would go into your online account. You would see how much cash value you have available. You would you will click a button that says take a loan. You will click a button that says take a participating loan. You will click a button that says access your cash value. Whatever their process is, you will then put in the amount that you want and the banking and routing number of the account you want it transferred to. And some offer a 24-hour wire. Got to pay for that. Some offer a 3 to 5 business day transfer at no cost. But the bottom line is once you fill in that information, once you fill out the required information to be able to borrow or leverage from your account, that money is then transferred into your checking account, whichever checking account you decided. And that is how that then you can, once it hits your checking account, you can use it for whatever you want to pay any bills, however you see fit. Now, it is, to me, it's very primitive because if you wanted a monthly amount, that means every month you have to do this. I think what you will see is life insurance companies starting to conform to actually distributing income. We're not there yet, but as of right now, you would have to go into your online account and request that dollar amount every month or $1 amount annually, however you decide it, as of today. But that's how you would do it.
All right. Roderick was saying, hey, could you please finish the first thought before I interrupted? I don't even know if we can go back, but what I will say is this.
I did. It was the 0% that I answered, and then I went to the vibe board, and so I did.
Okay. I will say this even for anybody who's watching the replay. We are, by the way, announcement, and we're going to post this up on our community tab as well. We're going to start going live earlier because we realize that these get pretty late for people who are on the East Coast, and we would prefer that they be earlier too if more people can attend. So that's a great thing. We're going to start that on Wednesday. So we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off and make the change. We wanted to do the rollout and give people a heads up so that they could be more aware. But I think we'll just go ahead and do that starting Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to cover part 2 of this. So when we talk about inflation, when we talked about how do you find your freedom number, we're going to walk through the exact steps all over again, but this time we're going to do it for you. So this time you'll be able to use this as a tool, and you'll have your number by the time that we're done with that particular stream. You could get your number by watching this stream, of course, but we are going to have some extra tools because we realized when we were going through this that this could end up being a 5-hour live stream. That's not anybody's preference. So
we're gonna 5 hours.
So we're gonna just do that on Wednesday. So tune in for Wednesday for sure, and that will be 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So we're gonna roll it back. If you guys have a better time, put it in the chat, throw it in there. Let's start a vote. We don't mind. Okay, we have just a couple more questions here. Charles Taylor says, "Good evening, family. If a family's bank trust has a life insurance policy on a family member, would it prevent that member from purchasing policy for the purposes of a SKIA on themselves?"
Great question.
Charles, somebody has a policy on you?
Well, a lot of people do. Say your dad or your mom bought a policy on you when you were a child. Now you're an adult. They still own that policy on you. So that happens. So we all have this thing called max insurability. And once we become adults, that max insurability looks like a multiplier times our age. And multiplier times our age. A multiplier times our income based off our age. So if you're, let's call it 25, that multiplier might be 40 times your income. If you're 36, that multiplier might be 35 times your income. If you're 45, that multiplier might be 30 times your income. If you're 50 something, that multiplier might be 20 times your income, and so on and so on and so on. So as long as you don't exceed that max insurability, so if let's say the trust has a policy on you for $500,000 and you are 30 years old and you make $100,000 a year, or let's say 31 years old and you make $100,000 a year, which means your max insurability as a 31-year-old is 35 times your income. $100,000 times 35, that's $3.5 million. If the trust has $500,000 on you, you have another $3 million worth of insurance that you're able to get.
All right. I like this one. Rich says, reverse velocity banking, starting out, still complete the 4 major numbers, correct? Then perhaps figuring out what to pay while the wealth tool is building. I love this because you actually have a graphic.
Yep. So I've got a list of what those actions should look like. So sweetheart, if you want to slide on over to it, let's do it. So now we will provide more detail on Wednesday, but high level, it looks like this. Everything, if we're going to do reverse velocity banking, meaning we want to get ourselves in a position so that the cash value from our life insurance policy can then be used to pay for our expenses. We want to get to our freedom number as quickly as possible. We don't want to wait 37 years. If we can get there in 10, get there in 8, whatever that time frame is, we want to do so. So the first step is understanding the goal. Where the hell are we going? Excuse me. What's the objective? And in understanding the goal, that kind of helps us detail or understand how we're going to hit our fire number or our freedom number or whatever hey, I want to be able to replace my 100% of my income, or I want to replace the 60% that I use for expenses. Like, it really just depends, and it's specific to the person. And then next, it's pay yourself first. When? Today. Where? Somewhere secure. To do what? Compound your money. And then what? Leverage it so that you can produce income inside of a vehicle that you don't have to worry about losing as it relates to the market. So therefore, it's the wealth equation. It's taking that money and putting it in a secure compound interest producing vehicle, or a vehicle that is going to securely grow your money over time. That's what it's about. And then it's the time required. You have to give your money time. You have to allow your money enough time to produce enough cash value so that it can replace the expenses or the income that you're wanting it to replace. And that's different for everybody. In this situation, the guy 25 years old, it took 10 years in order for us to get to a point. For you, it might be longer. For you, it might be less. It really depends. But we have to allow your money to compound for the right amount of time to be able to get there. And then once you're there, you're going to leverage what? You're going to leverage that cash value to pay your expenses. But when you leverage your cash value to pay your expenses, you've got this income sitting here now that you need to do something with. We have to get it compounding. Why? Because as you're leveraging your expenses, we need to take that income that you have, get it compounding so that we can produce enough leverage for you to be able to sustain this process. If you don't get that money compounding, if you don't put it to work, you could potentially cause your policy to implode because you're now leveraging one policy or over leveraging one policy, which is one of the issues that people have with a process like this. So it is very critical that we get that money that you have that is now no longer going towards expenses, get it compounding. Where's my screen? Because I don't know what the next one is. I'm just going to be done. You want me to be done? I can be done.
No, I thought you were.
No, there's
that's
a whole
not it.
list. Nope, other side.
Here we go. Pay yourself first was the last one, and then the last one is
Nope. It's leverage. I was leveraging the
oh,
accumulated amount to be able to pay your bills, and
all
then
right.
so what you're doing is you're taking that dollar amount, that income that you have, and you're paying yourself first. If you remember the equation was putting all of your income in A and then paying your bills from X. So this is where that takes place. You're putting all of your income into your secure compound interest account, and then you're using that leverage to then pay your bills. And then obviously the last one is you continue to do this over and over and over again till you get to a point where you're not just paying for your expenses. You now hit your fire number or hit your whatever that point is for you to be able to take that income and hit your WTF moment. Now you can slide into the
But it all starts with what is the goal?
no doubt.
And
What is
now
the goal?
and now we've got t-shirts. You should see those below the stream because you guys said you wanted to have t-shirts that said this, right? So that's a win. I think it's important to recognize or to have your goal close to you at all times. It's important to have the concept of well-timed freedom and that moment is possible for you based off of the decisions that you make. And on that note, we are going to spin the wheel to give away a boat. But most people say, what is the boat? The boat is just a representation, a visual representation of a concept. It's a mantra, it's a creed in our home and in our family. And the reason why this is so powerful is because with one question, it's almost like recalibrating a compass. It's almost a reset button. One question can answer so many questions by saying, well, will it make the boat go faster? And when you understand who's in your boat, when you understand where your boat's going, then it is a much greater chance that you'll be able to reach your goal. And so real quick, we're just going to remind everyone, what is the boat before we give it away? What is the boat? This is the boat. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. Okay, all right, let's get the boat in here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so let's see here. Boop, boop, doo-doo.
My boat. Hopefully you can get your boat.
All right, here we go. So, if you've been in the chat, then you will be on the board, and we are going to spin it right now.
I'm guessing Nathan's going to win first.
Oh, that wasn't the right sound.
I liked it though.
Yep. All right, Frankie.
See, I was close. I was close.
Frankie.
I was close.
All right, we're gonna spin again. Here we go. Hey, Lewis Baker. I love
Well deserved,
that.
Lewis. Well deserved. Lewis, when you get time, please text us at the number that we're going to put at the bottom of the screen. Frankie, if you knock that out for me, text us at the number at the bottom of the screen. Text us your, I'm assuming Lewis Baker, maybe your full name, but text us your full name, your address, and the handle that you used, which obviously might be Lewis Baker, and so that we can get you your boat. So yeah, just text me at this number. Let me know that you won the boat, and I will be happy to send it over to you.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Let's spin again. Here we go. Oh, Harry already won a boat. Why is it doing this? Come on. Come on. We need, let me stop it now. Hey, I love that. She's never been on here before. This is her first time.
So again, please text the number below. Give us your handle, the handle that was used during this live, so we know who to reference, your full name and your address, and we will absolutely get a boat over to you. It may take us a few days, maybe even a week or so, but we will absolutely get it to you.
Yeah, I'm going to give one more away. Okay.
It's your world, girl.
It's your world, girl. Get them boats away. Karen. I don't think Karen's won a boat yet. I'm pretty sure she hasn't.
She winning one today.
Karen,
as mentioned, please text me. Text me at 602-560-7311. Please provide your handle and your full name and address, and we will absolutely get your boat over to you. Sweetheart, let's get out of here.
All right. Well, what you just said right there was giving, hold on, I'm trying to take this stuff off.
Look at what they've won.
Hold on, I can't take the thing off. Why can't I take it off? There we go. Here we are. Okay. So, yep. So on that note, we hope that you guys have enjoyed learning something new. If this was valuable to you, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe for more.
And share it. Send it out.
Please share it. Yeah, even if it's just to get a second opinion. You know what we really prefer is that you bring, if you're the spouse who's out here researching these strategies that you pull your spouse in and pull them into the conversation, because if they are like checking out, I'm not interested, I don't want to, let us know. What is it about it? Because I was that spouse. That was me. And so what I try to do is I try to advocate for those types of people who are struggling to learn this stuff. And maybe we need to make it more visual. Maybe we need to add different types of tools so that everyone has an opportunity to learn this, because everybody should have this information. We should have been taught this in schools, say it all the time, but we absolutely can do it right here on YouTube, and we can build a community around building wealth, and we can change what wealth looks like and who it's for everybody. Nobody has to lose. Nobody has to be taken advantage of in order for everyone to win. Can't say that enough times. It's just a fact. It's true. And in 2023, we should already know that these systems are available to all of us. So on that note, we always like to end with saying, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay focused.
Stay protected.
Stay tuned.
Stay connected.
My name's Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
consistently get self-directed.
We're going to show you how to get the free resources, guys. Make sure you take advantage of those, and we will see you earlier on Wednesday. Thanks, guys. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.